Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and with me, being one of my bros slash frequent review collabers, Anchorman.
Hello.
Yep. So, we both are continuing on reviewing the seasons of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Yes. So now we come to Season 2. And if you guys recall, we started with the first season, if you want to go check that out. But yeah, here we are now. We're reviewing the second season. And yeah, because with what all we said, and when starting with Season 1, because, you know, and to acknowledge it again, where, I mean, you know, Clone Wars, when it first began, besides the movie, not to say that, like, the first two seasons of the Clone Wars were bad at all. I mean, I guess you could say, like, yeah, best way to put it, a mixed start. But that's not to say that, you know, episodes to come from the first two seasons, especially from the second season, were all bad. No, because, yeah, definitely, because when it came to Season 2, oh yeah, there were a good batch of episodes slash arcs that, yeah, they were really awesome, definitely. And especially because the start of the second season, we were introduced to one brand new bounty hunter character with what we got of him in the last episode of Season 1, and he would be the main center of the Season 2 opener. Oh yeah, just, it was awesome. And of course for me, because, yeah, I might as well start and with the first things we each have to say about Season 2, again, starting with me. Well, of course, I was there, and if I've established this before, I, of course, was there, you know, ever since the Clone Wars began, and surprisingly, because, yeah, good for me, I have good memory of when Season 2 was upon us at the time, and I remember when Season 2 first started and premiered. You know, surprisingly, because, yeah, I remember when, in October of 2009, after Cartoon Network showed Small Soldiers, what would come after that was the second season, the opener of Season 2 of the Clone Wars. And this was also around the time when, yeah, Cartoon Network, you know, started their annual tradition of Halloween stuff. So I remember that too. And yeah, just from there on, with what Season 2 had in store, it was really great, yeah. Each of these episodes that Season 2 has to offer, with the arcs, you know, trilogy of episodes, standalone episodes, in other words, just a one-off episode, yeah, like, how it begins and how it ends in the second season, just brilliant, yeah. And just, again, with each of these arcs and with the storylines that they have, just, yeah, really great. And the more character-driven, especially, like, you know, what would come next for, say, each Ahsoka and Rex, you know, because how Ahsoka first started off, she was not very well loved, but it was definitely somewhere around, say, Season 2, and definitely up to Season 3, yeah, things would get better for her, and all that. Yeah. And, you know, if I've established this before, I'll say it again, because from day one, I just immediately fell in love with the character of Ahsoka. And boy, talk about, you know, what would come next for her. Just, I tell ya. Yeah. All right. But just again, overall, the second season of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Yeah. It was a good season, and for it being the second season. Okay. Anchorman, will now turn over to you. What are the first things you have to say about the second season of the Clone Wars itself?
I think it's a good, solid season. A lot of people do complain about the first few seasons of the Clone Wars, but I think I enjoyed it overall. I like how it switches arcs all the time, and I think the introduction to Cat Bane was really well done. And I do have nostalgia for watching some of Season 2 on Cartoon Network, for when I knew it was on.
Of course. All right, anything else you got to say, or are you good for now?
I think I'm good for now.
All right, so now that we've finished with the first things we've had to say about Season 2, well, we shall now begin to dive in / break down Season 2 itself. And obviously, starting with the first 3 episodes, the episode trilogy. The first 3 episodes of Season 2 that start off the second season. Yeah, these trilogy of episodes, Cad Bane and the Holocron. Yeah, and each of them, the title of the episodes being Holocron Heist, Cargo of Doom, and Children of the Force. Okay, description / the story on all 3 of them. Yeah, Holocron Heist. After disobeying orders, Ahsoka is sent to guard the Jedi archives, where Sidious has sent a bounty hunter to try and steal an important holocron. And, in the second episode, Cargo of Doom, Anakin and Ahsoka try to stop Bane escaping from the archives with the holocron, and, as it has details of every Force-sensitive child all throughout the universe in Star Wars. And Episode 3, Children of the Force. The Jedi must stop Cad Bane when he begins to kidnap Force-sensitive children from across the galaxy to lure them to the dark side as the final part of Sidious's evil plan. All right. Okay, well, we'll start with you, Anchorman, because what are the first things you have to say about the first 3 episodes of Season 2, the trilogy of episodes with Cad Bane, the Holocron, all that?
I really like this arc because it shows, like, the deep side to the Jedi Temple. We see, like, the archives. We see obscure Jedi get killed by Cad Bane, and it shows how deadly he is from just being one bounty hunter. And I just love the way he catches the holocrons, and it leads to, like, Anakin, Ahsoka to go after him, and all that good stuff. And, yeah, I think this is a good starter for Cad Bane in the Clone Wars timeline.
Absolutely. You know, despite that we already saw him in the last episode of Season 1, but this right here, this is where he really fully shines. And of course, he's no disappointment, because the more we get of Cad Bane up to here, because it didn't take too long, and again, besides the fact that he appeared in the last episode of Season 1, which he was good in that, but right here, oh my gosh, because where he really shines and he becomes such a fantastic bounty hunter next to Boba Fett in Star Wars, without a doubt. And with Corey Burton, of course, you know, the voice performance he delivers and Cad Bane is just fantastic. Yeah. And, well, I of course concur with what you so far had to say about the first 3 episodes. The Holocron Arc. Yeah, because, yeah, a great way to start off the second season of Clone Wars, because, yeah, I mean, you know, like at one point, while on a mission and they have to retreat, and Ahsoka does not obey orders and just, yeah, doesn't get the hint, nothing intentional from her. Well, unfortunately, she finds herself doing some stuff at the Jedi Temple Library, and where we see the Jedi Librarian herself make her appearance in the Clone Wars series. Yeah, what'd you think on that, Anchorman, to see the Jedi Librarian whom we saw in Attack of the Clones, and technically she had an appearance in the Revenge of the Sith game, but to see more of her up to, say, Clone Wars, like, yeah, what say you?
I liked Jocasta Nu's appearance. It was cool to see her, and I know she gets impersonated in this episode, but it was cool to see her character design get into a lightsaber duel later in the episode.
Yep. I mean, because, yeah, since she is a Jedi, so why else would she not wield a lightsaber, even though at one point that's not really her, but yeah. And with her just showing Ahsoka the various ways and, the specific details that she gives to Ahsoka on account of the library and one specific room in the Jedi Temple library where the Holocrons reside, and Kit Fisto at one point stepping in. Yeah. Then with Cad Bane, his introduction in his, dirty apartment, he would receive a communication call from Darth Sidious to retrieve a Jedi holocron, and, Cad Bane, with him explaining that to get the holocron, I have to break into the Jedi Temple. It's impossible, not to mention deadly. But Sidious, he's got it taken care of for Cad Bane, because, with the help of Sidious, he'll have no trouble, getting access and finding various ways to break in and to get into the room of holocrons. And especially with the aid of two characters that are working alongside with Bane. Well, here we are introduced to Todo 360. And good thing I remember the numbers, to go with Todo's name. And Todo being voiced by good old Seth Green. And, of course, I had watched the behind the scenes, and on account of the behind the scenes of the Holocron arc, where, because Dave Filoni, being an admirer of Seth's work and being a fan of Robot Chicken, and obviously Dave, there's no doubt that, he got a kick at what Robot Chicken did with Star Wars, those 3 Star Wars Robot Chicken specials, duh. And of course, Seth Green being Seth Green, with what he brings to the voice performance of Todo 360, it's so great. And the chemistry that both Bane and Todo have is really good. And what say you on the character of Todo, Anchorman?
I like him. I sometimes forget that he's voiced by Seth Green, but I do like his robot design. I thought it looked super neat.
Oh, yeah. And then we would also be introduced to Kato. Is it Kato or Kato? Do you know, Anchorman?
Which one?
The one that, comes in and works alongside with Bane to disguise herself as a deceased Jedi, then the librarian, that one.
I think her name is Kento.
Okay. Yeah, but, and while you're speaking, because what say you on that character?
I never really thought there would be a shapeshifter Star Wars character, but I think it's neat to see for a bounty hunter character. Yeah, some of the bounty hunters in the Clone Wars have neat, cool abilities. Yeah,
but you're forgetting that it's the same alien species that we did see in Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones?
Yeah, which being Zam.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a few times we would see, her, true appearance, the green skin and all that. Mm-hmm. So it's really cool to, once again, see that being incorporated, this time in Clone Wars. Yeah. And the form that she would take is, as I mentioned, a deceased Jedi. The Jedi by the name of Ord Ensigns, if I got his full name right. Yeah. And whom being voiced by D. Bradley Baker. Do you have anything to say on Jedi Master Ord, Anchorman?
I'm a fan of obscure Jedi, so I do like his character design. I was really curious what his lightsaber would be, because I had, a character book that my cousin gave me of the Clone Wars, and his character was in it, and I was wondering what his lightsaber could be.
Yeah, I can only imagine, it would have a unique design, and on account of him. And I'm on the same page as you, because, how'd you say it again? How'd you say again on the Jedi? You're a fan of what?
Obscure Jedi.
Obscure Jedi, thank you, because I'm on the same page as you, because some underrated members of the Jedi Temple / Council, best example, my favorite one has to be Yarrow Poof, the long-necked alien, whom we only saw in The Phantom Menace. Yeah, him. I also like, What's-Him-Face, whom did take Yarrow Poof's place, whom we saw in Attack of the Clones, and whom got shot by Jango, that guy.
Coleman Trevor?
Yes, that guy. Yaddle, a good one too. Oppo Rancisis, just, So to name a few, but again, most prominently, Yarrow Poof takes the #1 spot for me, so, yeah. But with what we get of Ord and Cesis, well, even though it's not really him, the bounty hunter takes the form of him. I mean, to kind of get an idea of what he's like, just, there's no doubt, of course, that the actual Ord himself being a pretty awesome, loyal Jedi, of course. And it's very interesting to wonder, however, Cad Bane managed to take him down and to just have his carcass be in his apartment. That's interesting. I wonder if Darth Sidious had to do something with this, because we didn't see Ord's, deceased body in Cad Bane's room at the start, so hard to tell. But now that Kato has taken the form of Ord, and she would make her way into the Jedi Temple as that Jedi, even Ahsoka thinking it's the actual Ord, well, Cad Bane and Toto making their way in, and to speed things up some, because, her guiding them through the temple, the various vents, and even when a fan turns on, and all the specific information and data that Toto has, and to further make their way into the temple and such. And, eventually what would happen where, when the Jedi Temple librarian would notice Ord, and, Ord, not the actual Ord, would knock her down and take the form of the librarian. Then when Ahsoka stepping in and realizing it's not the actual librarian and noticing the librarian herself unconscious, leading to a lightsaber battle. Then at one point Toto, he would make his way into another room because he and Bane separated, and, in the room, because, Yoda, Mace Windu also appearing in this episode. They get a couple of speaking lines, and Ayla Secura being there, as well as Kit Fisto, all in the same room, Toto stepping in, and also Anakin and Obi-Wan. They're trying to track down what all is going on. They don't have any idea what is specifically happening on account that Bane is present, breaking in the temple. Well, then it would, lead to say where, they could see Toto's shadow, but little did Toto realize that Bane placed a bomb behind his back, and it's about to go off. Yep, and Anakin and Obi-Wan, they clear the way, they close the vent, on Toto, and Toto's destroyed. But surprisingly, that would not be the last time we see Toto, because he would come back by the 3rd season. Interesting. Oh well. However, Bane found a way to resurrect Toto. Well, that's at least one good thing to come from Bane, But then, ultimately, Bane, he would get his hands on a holocron, and, he would manage to sneak his way out, and with no other Jedi, even with Ahsoka being in the same room, she didn't realize, nor could she sense, that that was Bane making his way out of there. He managed to steal the holocron. And not to mention that it was brought up early on that very soon Cad Bane is going to capture a Jedi by the name of Bala Rapallo, whom is the same alien species as Greedo. Because now it's up to them to try to retrieve the holocron that Cad Bane has now stolen. And by this point, and when we come into the 2nd episode, well, Cad Bane was given an army force of battle droids, and on account of retrieving Bala Rapallo, with Anakin and Ahsoka on Cad Bane's tail. And this is really cool, because to see them in action and using those specific walkers that are mainly used for the planet's surfaces, and it didn't occur to Admiral Yularen, whom is there, always getting tagged alongside with Skywalker. Even he's not quite sure about this, but they're ultimately used at one point to walk on top of one of the Separatist ships, in order to break in the ship that Bane's on. And this is the first time where we see Ahsoka in a different suit getup. Well, because on account that both her and Skywalker, they're in space, so there you go. That's pretty cool. And with them wearing space helmets, and R2 also tagging along as well. And with them getting in, and, because Bane trying to hide from, the clones, Anakin and Ahsoka, and not to mention that, when he captured Bala Rapallo, he was being tortured and was forced to open the holocron, but he would not give in, and, well, he unfortunately would meet his demise. The electrocution that would strike on him, the torture chamber, yep, very painful, and yeah, because ultimately he dies. So now Bane has to find another Jedi. And yeah, one of them, of course, being, say, Skywalker and Ahsoka. Yep. And then, like, say, would lead to where an ambush would happen. And Anakin would realize that this is a trap. Also, Newt Gunray made a few contacts with Bane on account of, like, say, the holocron and such. Newt Gunray making an appearance. But yeah, let's come back to you, Anchorman, because what else you've got to say, and where we're up to by this point, and in the second episode of the Holocron arc.
I like this episode. The death of the Rodian Jedi was painful to watch. It just shows that this show was not going to be easy with their death scenes, for sure. I did like the spacesuits of Anakin and Ahsoka. I think I had like those little Star Wars figures, those tiny figures where it was like a version of Anakin and Ahsoka in their spacesuits.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, yeah. Anything else you got to say?
It was interesting the way Cad Bane was able to outwit Anakin and Ahsoka by trapping Ahsoka and threatening to open the airlock on her, and then Anakin is forced to open the holocron for her. And that's where it does show how sadistic Cad Bane is and how deadly he is.
Exactly. And now that you bring it up, because, yeah, I mean, there's no way that Anakin, he's gonna let his Padawan be blown out into space. And obviously the same goes for a lot of us when watching this. We don't want to see it happen either. So, Anakin, he has no other choice. But he does so, because, yeah, by opening the holocron, and, because with what Cad Bane gets, the specific information, and now that the holocron is unlocked and what he'll do next, yeah. Then at one point, yeah, the doors would be open, yeah, letting the air out, but luckily, yeah, Ahsoka did survive and all that, and it's once again a race to, chase down Cad Bane, but unfortunately, by this point, there were some bombs accidentally let out of some cargo boxes, and yeah, by this point, the ship is blowing up, and it's gonna soon be destroyed, and by this point, they have no other choice but to evacuate. Even Skywalker, being told by his Padawan, patience, and they're just... time's run out, because, there's no way they can get Cad Bane at this point. Just, yeah, the clock is ticking, everything's happening so fast. But, like, say, at one point, 2 clone troopers, they did corner Bane, and when it seemed like, yeah, they killed and shot Bane, he fell from a balcony. Well, yeah, all of them retreating. They stole a, separatist shuttle. But, yeah, the holocron was not retrieved. And... when believing that Bane is dead, well, Skywalker mentioning that he can still feel Bane, despite that he may be dead. Then when it would come to, say, children of the Force, yeah, because, well, turns out that Bane did not die. He somehow managed to kill probably killed both clones, He disguised himself in the clone armor, and if you pay close attention, at the end of Episode 2, when Anakin asks that one clone trooper that supposedly shot Bane, and it looks that he's a bit wounded, he's holding on to his arm, Anakin asking him if, he got the holocron, and the clone, just the way he said, "No, sir," just a bit off. And that basically being a little hint, and when we step into Episode 3, yeah, it's Bane. So yeah, he once again manages to escape, taking one of the hyperspace rings in one of those fighter shuttles of the clones, and yep, he got away once again. And, he did keep the holocron safe and sound with him. So now that, again, the holocron's been open, now, because what can happen in the events of the third episode, Bane can track down / kidnap the Force-sensitive children from different parts of the galaxy. Yeah, because, seeing baby versions of, like, say, you know, the alien species of Greedo, Kit Fisto, and a Gungan also. Yep, that too. Because obviously, you know, sometimes there can be Force-sensitive Gungans. I mean, heck, there's also been Force-sensitive Wookiees, and at one point, if you really know this, you know, big Star Wars fanatics, there was at one point a Force-sensitive Hutt, believe it or not, which coming from the comics. Yeah, alright. But let's come back to you, Anchorman, because what do you have to say about the third and final episode in the Holocron arc?
I like this episode because Anakin and Ahsoka go to Mustafar, and it was the first time Anakin goes to Mustafar before he becomes Darth Vader, fights Obi-Wan, so I thought that was a nice parallel. And this type of episode would later be used for Star Wars Rebels, when Ezra and Kanan, Zeb and Ahsoka have to track down the Force-sensitive children from the Inquisitors.
Right.
I really like that episode, too.
Oh, yes. And yeah, because the parallel, as you say, because yeah, this is the first time in the Clone Wars where, yeah, because, you know, we see Mustafar, and, predating the events of Revenge of the Sith, with Anakin Skywalker being there, and to think that what would come next, that would be the birthplace of Darth Vader. Yeah. But everything else that's going on, because, like, yeah, with Cad Bane stealing the children, like, Obi-Wan would at one point trying to track down Bane when, yeah. You know, I keep saying this, the species of Greedo. Do you know the name of the species the same as Greedo, don't you, Anchorman?
Rhodians.
Rhodians, thank you! Golly, to think it could be so easy to remember, that kind of stuff. But yeah, like going to the Rhodian planet, and somehow Bane, he used a device to hypnotize the baby Force-sensitive Rhodian's mother. Yeah, and Obi-Wan making it clear to the child's mother, because that was not a Jedi, he was a bounty hunter, even when Obi-Wan says, Jedi do not carry weapons, you know, guns and all that. And yep, the Rhodian child is captured. Then when it would come to say, we don't see where, yeah, the alien species of Kit Fisto is captured, because that happened at some point, that child was already captured. But when it would come to say Naboo, yeah, because Anakin and Ahsoka would be there, and Ahsoka, well, she has a score to settle, because here's another thing that I cannot forget to mention, because at one point, and when Ahsoka was held hostage by Bane, well, Cad Bane at one point took one of Ahsoka's, like, you know, necklace pieces, you know, because of her head. Yeah, took that, and, well, Ahsoka, she would retrieve that again. I think I deserve to wear this again, as she says. But yeah, because ultimately, Cad Bane fell into a trap thanks to Ahsoka and Anakin, and the Gungan child is safe. Good. And that sequence where, yeah, they need to get information from Bane about where the other captured Force-sensitive children. By this point, there's only 2 that have been captured and have been taken to Mustafar. And a moment where we see Darth Sidious just trying to be all friendly and all that to the Force-sensitive children. But yeah, like, that interrogation sequence, that was pretty good. Because, keep in mind, in the case of Cad Bane, he cannot be really affected by, say, anything Jedi-related, because those air tubes that he has, which he doesn't need anyways, but he needs them on account of, yeah, any Jedi that uses the Force on him, that. But when it comes to them doing the mind trick, you know, you will, so on so, that whole thing, yeah, because Mace Windu, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and when all 3 of them are at sync, you know, you will take us to the Holocron, and that epic moment, and you will take us now! And seeing the behind the scenes, and when they show clips of them recording that, oh, that's so awesome. And Cad Bane, I mean, you know, who can blame him because he's struggling, even the look on Ahsoka's face, yeah, I mean, it's understandable with what's going on with Bane, because he can't withstand what they're doing in his head, you know, just him just in pain. What say you, Anchorman, on that sequence right there, the interrogation part?
I thought it was interesting that Bane couldn't resist. He was able to almost resist until he just gave in.
Yep, he gave in, because Cad Bane, he's like, I've had enough of that. I'll take you to the Holocron and get your children back. Yep, because for once, he obeys. He'll help them out for a little bit. Yeah, so, at one point, because Mace and Obi-Wan, they take Bane alongside with them, and Commander Cody's with them as well. And where the Holocron is, they take, Bane would lead them to the location where the Holocron is, but it would lead to booby traps and, alarms being set off. And, sure enough, Cad Bane would once again escape, and that would be the last we would see of Cad Bane for now. But luckily, they managed to, retrieve the Holocron. And in the case of where the Force-sensitive children are, well, it comes down to Anakin and Ahsoka. They would track down the coordinates, and which being in Mustafar, they would make their way to nurse droids that are holding them, because they can be quite intimidating, and when they're trying to attack Anakin and Ahsoka. And also, the force fields were dropped, and the buildings right there in Mustafar, they're about to crumble. And exactly like how it was in the events of Revenge of the Sith. And also, another thing to mention is that, well, of course this makes sense of them, where in the behind the scenes, they obviously wanted Mustafar to look exactly like Mustafar and how it was in the movie. And on account that this is computer animation, taking the exact specific tone of lava colors and incorporating it into the Clone Wars animation, well, they pulled it off for sure. Definitely. But overall, it would end where the Holocron was retrieved and the Force-sensitive children, they're safe and sound. But, Cad Bane once again having escaped. And when, because Anakin and Ahsoka would be informed by this, even a look from Yoda, when brought up if Cad Bane was still captured, Yoda gives them a look, and the look says it all. No words need to be said. But just overall, that first arc, for that being the start of season 2, that was really great. And just anything else you got to say on the first arc of season 2 of the 3-episode trilogy of the Holocron, and also with Cad Bane, Anchorman?
I enjoyed this arc. This is easily one of my favorites for sure. And this is easily one of Cad Bane's best episodes of the show. Indeed.
All right, moving on, because now we come to the Geonosian Arc, which being basically episodes 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So in a total, that's 3, 4, 5 episodes. So episode 4, Senate Spy. Episode 5, Landing at Point Rain. Episode 6, Weapons Factory. Episode 7, Legacy of Terror. Episode 8, Brain Invaders. Okay, description / the stories on all 5 of these episodes. Senate Spy. Padme takes on a dangerous covert mission to spy on a senator she once had a relationship with. Episode 5, Landing at Point Rain. Obi-Wan and Anakin form a plan of attack on the Geonosian droid factory, but little do they know, the Separatists are expecting them. Episode 6, Weapons Factory. Description / the story. Luminara and Anakin's plan to create a diversion on the droid factory comes into effect so that their Padawans can sneak inside and destroy the factory. And Legacy of Terror, description / the story. Obi-Wan and Anakin face a tough battle through the Geonosian drones to find Luminara, who has been taken captive to their queen as a trophy of war. And finally, Brain Invaders. Okay, description / the story. Ahsoka and Barriss board a ship harboring a band of infected clones. The young Padawans must stop the infested ship from docking. Okay, now Anchorman, we'll once again start with you. What are the first things you have to say about the Geonosian Arc?
I enjoyed this arc. It was cool seeing them go back to Geonosis. and see them team up with Kia and Mendy. I thought that was nice, and I like the new clone designs for when they go to Geonosis. I thought those were cool, and we do see them deal with some battle damage for sure. It shows how harsh it is to go to Geonosis.
And okay.
And, yeah, I do like Barasafi's and Luminara's introductions in this show. Even though Luminara did show up in season 1, but it was cool to see Barris show up in this show with the relationship with Ahsoka.
Yep, the friendship that they would build for a while, but that is until what would happen in the 5th season, but we'll get there when we get there. Okay, and starting with episode 4, where the arc starts off. Well, once again, start with you, Anchorman. What say you on the start of the Geonosian Arc, episode 4, Senate Spy?
Senate Spy, I think this is where the Rhodian senator gets murdered. Is that the episode?
No, that comes in very later on.
Oh, my bad.
No, this is
this
like,
the one?
keep in mind, this is where we are first introduced to Clovis.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Clovis. Okay, yeah. I always was interested in Clovis as a character because it causes Anakin to not really like him because he doesn't know that Padme and Anakin are married, and so he tries to butt in every time. And I do like Anakin's Naboo Starfire disguise. I even have his action figure for it.
Nice. But yeah, I mean, Senate Spy, a not bad episode, and where, I mean, was any of us expecting this to happen at some point? Like in anything Star Wars? And if, the more we would get of, say, the secret relationship between Anakin and Padme, where, jealousy would emerge, because, golly, to think that, there happens to be a senator whom once was in a relationship with Padme, just golly. And it's interesting to think of because, would this have been, say, maybe right before the events of The Phantom Menace, I wonder? Maybe? Or during when, after Phantom Menace and during those 10 years, well, Anakin and Padme hadn't seen each other for a long time. I guess so. If you know, you know. But anyways. But, I mean, episode 4 was pretty interesting, and to speed things up some still, because, where, we're introduced to Clovis being voiced by a good voice acting talent, Robin Atkin Downs, with what he brings to Clovis, and to think that we would get Clovis, after this, another time, very later on in the Clone Wars, and I'm sure as though that at the time we thought as though that would be the last we see of Clovis, but just it's interesting, with the jealousy thing that goes on, but with what's really going on with what Padme and Clovis are doing, and little does Padme realize what Clovis is a part of, where secretly, because another senator, and that's, on Coruscant, Lot Dodd, they're actually, because Lot Dodd is actually a part of this thing where, on account of the Geonosian himself, Poggle the Lesser, and at one point, it's considered by both of them to poison Senator Amidala. And if there's anything else you've got to say about this episode, Anchorman, with what I've now brought up, just, by all means, go ahead.
Probably my favorite part is where Anakin kind of, when he's disguised as the Naboo guard, he literally tilts the ship just to get Clovis away. I thought that was funny.
Yep. And anything you've got to say, because, the whole thing, and I, of course, remember this, I'd always, seen the sneak peeks and all that, on an all-new episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars, because back then, and when the show was on the air, showing sneak previews of what the next episode was going to be, where it most prominently shows, at one point in the episode, Senator Amidala / Padme would be poisoned. Like, what say you on the whole thing where at one point she would be poisoned?
I thought that was wild that she got poisoned. I knew she was going to make it, but
Obviously.
I wasn't really expecting it.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, we know, of course, that she's not going to die right there, because of Revenge of the Sith, you know? Because she would get a cure and all that. And we're at a certain point, to still speed things up some, because Clovis, he would feel guilty about this and not wanting to see, Padme, whom he admires so much, to be killed, and forcing Lot Dod to, help him out with all this, and on account for Anakin and Padme to disembark, and C-3PO also being there during this. But yeah, ultimately, because Clovis did upset Lot Dod. But luckily, because at the very end of the episode, Lot Dod, telling Clovis that we should talk, and he has a bunch of battle droids like next to him. Well, Clovis, he would turn out. He would turn out all right the next time we would see him very later on in the show. Yeah. And by the way, because what say you on the character of Lot Dod, Anchorman?
Which is he?
The same species as Newt Gunray, that one senator on the council, whom also
is he like a...
Yeah, that's him.
Is he like the one with the blue hat or something?
Well, it's, his get-up's all gray, so, it is.
Yeah, I don't remember too much of him. If I saw a picture, maybe I would remember.
Well, if you want to, by all means, you can look up a picture of Lot Dod, so just in case. But with how much we get of Lot Dod, because, I thought it was a pretty cool character. And I always, here's the thing, while I'm thinking of this, I always like certain characters like Lot Dod, like any members of the Senate, and in the case of those that are part of the Separatist Council, where they have some interesting wardrobes and get-ups. Yeah, I just find that really cool. And in the case of Lot Dod, so... And also, to mention more about Poggle the Lesser, the Geonosian guy, part of the Separatists, that kind of talk. And, being voiced by Matthew Wood, because, with him first appearing in this episode, he looks really great in the Clone Wars animation, And if you have anything to say on Poggle first appearing in this episode, Anchorman, by all means, say what you have to say.
Poggle Lesser, he was always an interesting separatist to me. I just always liked his design and his voice. It was definitely interesting, iconic to see a Geonosian on the Separatists. That would help, and that would fund a lot of the stuff in the Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm. And to think that, as it would definitely be established in Attack of the Clones, the Geonosians being a big part helping out with the Separatists, like being responsible for building, many battle droids, and fun fact, they would technically, they are, literally, they were responsible for the early designs, the look of the Death Star. Yep, that came from the Geonosians, as it was shown in Attack of the Clones. There you go. But yeah, so, I mean, just overall, like, Episode 4 and the first one in the Geonosian Arc, that was a good one. Yeah, a good one, and where it starts off in this second arc of Season 2 of the Clone Wars. Okay, but now coming to the fifth episode and the second installment in the Geonosian Arc, which again, that being landing at Point Rain. Well, we'll start with you once again, Anchorman. What say you on the fifth episode?
I think I like this arc a lot. With the Battle of Geonosis, like I said earlier, with Obi-Wan and Ki-Adi, we see like a giant battle. But the return of the Battle of Geonosis, I remember this in the Lego Star Wars game where you had to do this battle and it was like a long one, and you had to build your own army to beat the level.
Yep, absolutely.
And then eventually you went to the Geonosis temple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, as for me, because with what all, like, you know, for me to say about the 5th episode, because mainly, you know, because having Ki-Adi-Mundi step in, and Ki-Adi-Mundi being voiced by Brian George, and whom you know, he's a great talent, and I most prominently know him as, you know, Rajesh Kutherpalli's father in The Big Bang Theory. But other things that he's done, like in the case of voice acting, I mean, yeah, he's a great voice actor. Like, I know him, like, having voiced Hector Barbosa in anything Pirates of the Caribbean related, and other acting stuff he's been in, like, you know, to mention Star Trek, he played Dr. Julian Bashir's father in Deep Space Nine. But yeah, and that's another thing, because, you know, when it comes to Star Wars sometimes, and in the case of, say, Clone Wars, anything Star Wars animation, there have been quite a handful of, and, you know, yeah, even acknowledging this when we reviewed Season 1, yeah. Here, because, yeah, we have Brian George, whom, you know, had done something Star Trek before Star Wars, and the same would go for, say, the voice of Luminara Unduli, Olivia Adabo, yeah, being the official voice of Luminara Unduli in the Clone Wars, because she was in an episode of The Next Generation where she played, what's-her-face, whom, you know, turns out to be Q and such. Yeah, in that episode. That was from the 6th season of TNG. But yeah. And yeah, because with seeing Luminara Unduli, the more we get of her, we saw her a few times early on, especially in the Clone Wars movie. No speaking lines, but up to now, and with what Olivia brings to the voice performance of Luminara is really good. Anything else you've got to say? And we're first introduced fully to, you know, and seeing both Ki-Adi-Mundi and Luminara in action.
Yeah, I did like their appearances in the show. It was really nice to see them.
Mm-hmm. And definitely, like, their voices, like, especially Luminara Unduli, because, you know, here's the thing, because besides, like, Mace Windu, Yoda, and Ki-Adi-Mundi, they were the only three in the prequel trilogy, the Jedi and the Council, to ever have speaking lines. I mean, yeah, especially Ki-Adi. Just, at that time, obviously, all of us wondering, like, what the other Jedis sounded like, their voices. And up to here, because, like, yeah, I mean, ever since, like, say, Plo Koon sounding like Gandalf, and, yeah, then when hearing Ayla Secura talk, having, like, a British accent, and with the accent that Luminara Unduli has, like, yeah, and, like, let's not forget that, you know, we saw her in Season 1 when she teamed up with Ahsoka, but she really expands more here. Just, like, yeah, gotta keep that in mind. Yeah, I mean, it's just great. Yeah, of course, already acknowledged Olivia, you know, voicing Luminara when we reviewed Season 1. Just like, yeah, almost forgot. Yeah, and all the various things that are happening in the 5th episode, the fights and all, and on Geonosius, like, you have each Ki-Adi-Mundi and Obi-Wan, you know, because they're in different locations of where they're fighting. Also, like, clone troopers pulling out the flamethrowers, as they're called, and they sound like, you know, when the fire comes out, they sound like the roars of a tiger. I love that. And, you know, where Ahsoka and Anakin are fighting, and Rex accompanying them, just like, yeah, it was a really cool, awesome, epic battle episode, you know, in this, like, definitely. And all the various things that they're doing to take down the droid force, and trying to take down what's on Geonosius, you know, because of the factories and such, and what would come next in the next episode that we will get to momentarily. Anything else you've got to say on the 5th episode, Anchorman, by any chance?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, and I think the same goes for me. Just, yeah. But yeah, I mean, just overall, like, the second entry in the Geonosian Arc, landing at Point Rain, that was another good one. Well, then by the next episode, and I'd say for me, this is my, actually this and the 8th episode, the 8th episode are two of my favorites to come from the Geonosian Arc. Yeah, but until we get to that, yeah, because we're on episode 6, Weapons Factory, because in this, yeah, where Ahsoka and Luminara, her Padawan, Barriss, they are paired up, and in order to break into the factory and to basically destroy it, and while Luminara and Anakin, they keep the battle droids occupied and such, yeah. We'll start with you, Anchorman, once again, because what else have you got to say, and where we're up to now, the 6th episode?
Is this the one where they go to the Geonosian temple?
Well, yes, and I did say where Ahsoka and Barriss, they're paired up and to go inside and destroy the inside of the factory.
Yeah, I do like that one. It shows they have to survive in the tank for the battle droids, and then eventually Anakin and Luminara do save them.
They do. Because, yeah, I mean, with what goes on in that episode and with what more I have to say, because, yeah, this being the beginning of where Barriss and Ahsoka would first team up, and it wouldn't take too long for them to, you know, begin a friendship and such, and, of course, to acknowledge the voice of Barriss Offee, Meredith Salinger, you know, good talent, and whom, by the way, is married to Patton Oswalt. Yep. Anything you've got to say on Barriss and on account of her voice actress, Anchorman?
I do like Barriss's appearance in this episode. I think it was really good. I like seeing the pair with her and Ahsoka. It would show how tragic it was in season 5 of the show for their friendship.
But until we get there still, yeah. I also will make this one comment where, yeah, because while I'm thinking of it, and even if, like, it was established when we reviewed the first season, but point being is that, and, you know, and I'm sure maybe most of you know this if you've watched the behind the scenes, because, you know, the budget that they had for Clone Wars, and with, like, bringing the characters to life, the specific wardrobes that they would wear, like in the case of Barriss and Luminara, because, yeah, most of the Jedi wearing long cloth robes and such, and like, say, in the case of Barriss, if you've seen her appearance in the prequel films, she's got, like, say, a long robe and all that, and a hoodie, just like, yeah. But because on account of the budget of the show, because, yeah, having to trim a bit of Barriss's fabric, where it's like she has a mini cape and such. And, you know, I think overall, because with what they had to do and on account for the show, looked okay. Perfectly fine. And also the same goes for Luminara. Like, still having that headpiece, but still. A bit of her wardrobe that's on her body, like, having to be just a bit tweaked and such, yeah. But, with what else is going on in this episode, like, yeah, just, again, overall, where you have Barriss and Ahsoka just, you know, making their way inside of the factory and to take down the battle droids, and with what's going on outside with Anakin and Luminara taking on the battle droids, and, like, the more chemistry we would get from Barriss and Ahsoka being pretty good too, and when they would finally make their way to, like, the main center where, yeah, because, you know, like, the core and such, but even, like, say, when battle droids step in, and a tank, yeah. Well, overall, Ahsoka and Barriss, they would manage to infiltrate that tank, get inside, but, yeah, then they would discover they really have no way out, because, you know, by destroying the main core, and the fact where at one point they were supposed to place detonator bombs, well, that didn't go according to plan, because on account of the Geonosian soldiers, yeah, them stealing them. But now that they have the tank, well, that's the ticket right there. Like, that's another great option. And, yeah, with them realizing that there's no way they can get out of there, and when they inform their masters that, yeah, they can't get out of there, and thus they willingly sacrifice themselves, and by, you know, firing on the main core, and, like, the whole building, the factory, it explodes, and, like, just, yeah, big dust cloud. And at first, like, Luminara believes that, both of them are dead, but Anakin, he's refusing to believe that they did die, and it turns out that, yeah, Anakin's right, they did survive, because with how powerful that tank is, it didn't destroy the tank. They're perfectly fine, but yeah, them struggling to survive underground until Ahsoka using her communicator, because yeah, a moment where they activated their communicator devices on their wrists, and they activated them at the same time, yeah, trying to get it to spark and running, and to alert Anakin, because yeah, that would work, and yeah, sure enough, Anakin and Luminara, they would use the Force to rise the rubble, and yeah, they're okay. So, just overall, with what all happens in this episode, it was really great. Anything else you have left to say on Weapons Factory, Anchorman?
I was wondering, did you think it was like cold of Luminara to think that Ahsoka and Barriss were dead in the tank and they were just going to accept it?
That's a very good question. The way I view it is that, well, I mean, with how very buried Barriss and Ahsoka were, obviously there have been times where the Jedi cannot sense, like, if so on so, you know, this and so on so. So in the case of Luminara, yeah, I mean, she legitimately could not sense the presence of her apprentice slash Padawan Barriss and Ahsoka still being alive. So, to me that makes sense right there. But yeah. Alright, but just, yeah, just overall, Weapons of Factory, the third entry in the Geonosian Arc, that was great. Okay, then, what would happen next after that episode? Well, episode 7, Legacy of Terror, where we get zombie stuff in it. Yeah, because in this one where, at one point Luminara, at one point she's off, and she's in a sandstorm, and while trying to locate and find Poggle the Lesser, well, at one point she would get kidnapped, and it would be up to Anakin and Obi-Wan to track her to an ancient temple, because, yeah, after what happened at the events of Episode 5, well, Obi-Wan and Ki-Adi-Mundi had to rest, because they were a bit wounded, but up to here, because, yeah, Obi-Wan is all healed up and feeling better, so, yeah, him joining in the action alongside with his Padawan Anakin, and with him and a batch of clones to enter in this ancient temple, and where they would be unexpectedly attacked by undead Geonosian warriors. Yeah, because the zombie thing that happens in this episode, that's very interesting. And how we have these undead slash zombie Geonosian warriors, well, it's because of these worms that are keeping these carcassed Geonosian bodies alive and moving. Just, yeah, it's pretty interesting. A lot of horror stuff going on. Just, it's great. And with how it's specifically done in Star Wars, it's well done, of course. Yeah, of course, whenever they do stuff like this, zombies, whatever, it's got to be done in the right way, and the fact that this is Star Wars. Yeah. But what say you, Anchorman? What are the first things you have to say about Legacy of Terror?
This one was interesting. This is probably one of my favorite levels from the Star Wars game, where you go into the zombie temple of the Geonosians. And it was interesting to see how Obi-Wan and Anakin had to survive to go in there with the clones, and they almost lose their lightsabers, and they had to learn to not use them for a bit until they get them back.
Yep.
And save Luminara.
Indeed. And what'd you think of the whole thing with, in the episode itself, with the undead slash zombie Geonosian warriors?
I really like the Geonosian zombies. I've seen Star Wars have zombies before with the originally read Death Troopers, where it had zombie stormtroopers, and an abandoned Star Destroyer. So to see it in animation with the Geonosian, really cool. Right.
Yeah, and I almost forgot, because technically, there has been some zombie stuff in Star Wars before. And I think I probably had heard some of that you just mentioned, but yeah. And it wouldn't be the last time we would see some zombie stuff, oh no. Because, but also, have to acknowledge, and when they would eventually find and locate Luminara being held hostage, and Poggle the Lesser being there, of course. Well, we would also be introduced, and whom is responsible for aiding, like, the undead Geonosians to be alive and such? Well, the Geonosian Queen, and D. Bradley Baker voicing the Geonosian Queen. And knowing D. Bradley Baker, of course, the various creatures and animal sounds he does, and when he does the Geonosian Queen, and whenever, like, at times she shrieks, golly, just gotta give it to D. Bradley Baker. Master at stuff like that when it comes to voice acting. Yeah, the Geonosian Queen, I'll start first, because the Geonosian Queen was very interesting, very intimidating and such. You know, you are the creatures that attack Geonosius. Like, so great. And the way she's able, like, to control them and on account of the worms, and it's gonna happen to Luminar and Dooley, like, planning to take a worm and to put it, like, in her nose and such. In fact, at this point, Obi-Wan, he is determined to take one of those worms and study it. I mean, he should have, but, you know, Anakin intervening and just, like, yeah, just want nothing to do with the worm and for his master to study it. Because even, like, say, when he tried grabbing the worm, Anakin stepped on it, killing it, and Obi-Wan was like, I was going to study that. Study my foot. Because, yeah, there's no time for this and probably would be a bad idea. Because if this was not obvious, if this did not show for Obi-Wan what the worms are capable of doing to mind control, like, not just the undead, but anyone that would be alive as well, and that we would see in the following episode. We're getting there shortly. But turning back to you, Anchorman, what say you on the Geonosian Queen?
I like the Geonosian Queen. I thought she was cool, creepy looking, for sure. I think she was in the Darth Vader comic, where it takes place after the Clone Wars, and I think she's killed by him.
Yeah, and now that you mention it, because here's another thing, because I haven't acknowledged the Clone Wars game, where, and I'm sure, yeah, because we also talked about it some when we reviewed Season 1, but overall, like, yeah, of course, I played Lego Star Wars 3, and, yeah, because I, of course, most prominently remember, like, the levels that take place on Geonosius, also on account of the zombie Geonosian warriors, and I had read some of the Darth Vader comics. And, of course, this is when, say, yeah, Marvel was doing the Darth Vader comics, and at the time when, yeah, because we had the sequel trilogy happening. But point being is that, yeah, I of course remember/recall in one of the Darth Vader comics where he would make his way to Geonosius, and yeah, there would be a Geonosian there, and then, yeah, I completely forgot that, yeah, that was the Geonosian Queen that somehow survived. Because, yeah, to go ahead and round things off with Legacy of Terror, the 7th episode, well, because, yeah, ultimately, they would manage to defeat the Geonosian Queen, an avalanche would occur, and finally, Poggle the Lesser would be taken captive, arrested and such, and again, Obi-Wan attempting to take one of those worms, but Anakin killed it, stepping it with his foot, and yeah, the more intense the avalanche is getting, and with them escaping, just like, yeah, and when, yeah, ultimately the Geonosian Queen does get crushed to death, just, yeah. Yeah, that was a really good episode, and just very interesting to see that be brought to life, where, yeah, we have, you know, zombie activity going on, and in this case, it's the Geonosians. Like, that just makes it all creepy. Yeah, because they're literally giant bugs, you know, giant insects in the world of Star Wars, but being very intelligent and such, that's the thing. Yeah, just overall, Legacy of Terror, like, that was a good episode. You have any last remaining comments on that episode, Anchorman?
Yeah, I do like this episode a lot, and the Lego level from it, it was easily one of my favorite levels of the game.
Nice, good. All right, now we come to Episode 8, and this being the final installment in the Geonosian Arc, Brain Invaders, and like I said, this and Episode 6, they're two of my favorites, but most prominently Brain Invaders. This is definitely my favorite in this arc, where, yeah, after what all happened in the last episode? Well, Ahsoka and Barriss and the Tango Company, which being these group of clones, they would board the supply ship to the station near Ord Cestus. And, well, unbeknownst to them, one clone trooper would be mind controlled by one of the worms and would take a batch of eggs, stuffing it in his backpack, and when the time comes and on board the ship, unleashing the worms, and the worms mind controlling, most of the clones on the ship. And talk about, like, say, early tastes of clone troopers fighting against Jedi, say pre-Order 66. But in this case, like, they're under mind control, but very eerie and such when you think about it, But let's now come to you, Anchorman, because the first things you have to say about Brain Invaders.
I like Brain Invaders. It was a creepy episode where we see the worms of Geonosis into the sides of the clones, and it's unfortunate they get murdered by Barriss during the fight because they're possessed creepily by them.
Yep, indeed. And by this point, because I feel like asking, because I've said my part on what are some of my favorite episodes in the Geonosian Arc. Which are your specific favorites?
Probably the Geonosis Zombies episode.
Okay, that's good. That's a good one. Yep. All right, but continuing on, because, with what goes on in Brain Invaders, because, most of the episode, because of them on the shuttlecraft, the same type of shuttlecraft that, like, say, Princess Leia would be on. I mean, the interiors inside of the ship being the exact same interiors, the white interiors and all, that's on Princess Leia's ship in A New Hope. But, just like, the more chemistry that Ahsoka and Barriss have, but then when they would find themselves dealing with the clones that are possessed, and, they have no choice at first to kill a couple of the clones. I mean, things are happening very quick and all. But that's, like, the further they would discover and learn more about these worms, and that they were smuggled on board from Geonosius, because, like, at one point they would separate, bad idea, and Ahsoka would inform her master, and alongside with Anakin, because Obi-Wan, Luminara, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and Rex, they're on a separate ship, and they would be informed about this, and also Kit Fisto being at the station near Ord Cestus would be informed about this too. And there's a moment where Anakin, he has a word with the Geonosian separatist himself. Poggle the Lesser. And Anakin, just a bit of the darkness getting into him, just forcibly getting Poggle to talk. Even, Obi-Wan knew this and was just like, oh, Anakin, really? Just, But what did you think of that moment, Anchorman, where, the interrogation that Anakin does on Poggle?
I thought it was showing his dark side really well.
Exactly, because with what happens at times in the Clone Wars, it's amazing. Foreshadowing what would come for him very later on, as we know. Then at some point, Barriss, unfortunately, because they split, Barriss does get trapped, and thus one of the worms gets inside of her. Then we would see a lightsaber duel between a mind-controlled Barriss, fighting against Ahsoka, and the music and intensefulness that's going on is great. Then Ahsoka would be informed by Anakin at one point that the worms, the only way to take down these worms is to change the cooling system. They are infected by the cold. So having to change the temperature to freezing coldness, that's the ticket that takes down those worms. And because they are struggling inside of the clones that possess them, and even they're shrieking and screaming. The same goes for Barriss. Barriss is starting to come back, and where she's begging Ahsoka to kill her, but Ahsoka can't. But she wouldn't kill Barriss, but kill that worm. And by this point, the ship has arrived at the station and is brought in, and Kit Fisto and the clones, they'll handle everything. And Ahsoka would wake up in a bed where, yeah, because she would be greeted by Anakin. Originally, it was supposed to be Obi-Wan. If anybody had seen that deleted scene, it was supposed to be Obi-Wan, but yeah, it made better sense for Anakin to be there. Then Kit Fisto stepping in, and the whole thing about the worms being said, just, yeah. So overall, both Ahsoka and Barriss, they're all right. That's good to see. Yeah, and that being the final installment in the Geonosian Arc. Yeah, that was a great way to end off the Geonosian Arc. Yeah, brain invaders with what that episode had to offer. That was a really good one. Yep. To tie up everything that had happened on Geonosius, and on account with the more we got of those worms. Yeah. And any other comments you have left to say on Brain Invaders, Anchorman?
Yeah, it was definitely a creepy episode for sure. I also like the lightsaber duel in this one.
Uh-huh. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Moving on, because now we come to a two-parter episode where, yeah, because in the next episode, following Brain Invaders, well, yeah, the 9th episode, which being called Grievous Intrigue, however that word's pronounced, but, you know me sometimes, because in this episode, Master Eth Koth, whom we did see at one point in The Phantom Menace, and to see him fully shine in this, yeah, well, he is at one point tracked down by General Grievous and is then captured and tortured as an example to the Jedi. Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Adi Gala, all three of them would go after and take down Grievous and to save Master Eth Koth. And yeah, Adi Gala, where she debuts here and where she shines is, yeah, she's great. Yeah, because they would mount a rescue attempt on him, but unaware that Grievous is expecting them to do just that. Yep, because they would technically have themselves get into a trap and such, but it's obvious that in the end, yeah, they outsmart Grievous. Okay, but we'll start with you, Anchorman. What are the first things you have to say about this episode?
I really like this episode because it centers on Grievous and Eth Koth. I love their lightsaber duel. And this is easily one of my favorite levels of the Clone Wars Lego game, where they do this episode.
Yeah.
There's
Yes.
a lot of good action with this episode.
And especially where, yeah, the lightsaber duel between Grievous and Obi-Wan, where Grievous uses all 4 of his arms. Yep. Yeah, and with what goes on in this episode is great too. And to see both each Eth Koth and Adi Gala make their debut in this, and where they, you know, the voices that they each have, they're brilliant. Because, yeah, Chris Edgerly voicing Eth Koth, and Angelica Perrin, I think I got her first name right, yeah, voicing Adi. Yeah, they're both great. And what say you, Anchorman? What say you on Eth Koth and Adi Gala?
I really like Eth Koth and Adi Gala. These are underrated ones for sure.
Yep, definitely underrated ones. Mm-hmm. And yeah, because, I mean, and that's another thing, because, like, some of these Jedi characters, and, you know, if we did establish this when we reviewed Season 1, where, you know, the more we get of them, and it's thanks to Dave Filoni and those at the Clone Wars, where we see these members of the Jedi Temple get their spotlights and to see them in action, even some Jedi that we had never seen before, and they're first introduced in Clone Wars. Oh, they're just brilliant. Yeah. But yeah, pretty much throughout this episode, because, like, yeah, them going through the ship that Grievous is on, and when they would rescue Eth Koth, they have to deal with Grievous's droid guards. Yeah, and with Obi-Wan dealing with Grievous, and ultimately where, yeah, the ship would end up being destroyed, and Grievous and his remaining battle droids would crash land on the planet that their ship was in orbit of. Yeah, and with what would happen next in the following episode, well, Obi-Wan, Rex, and the other clones, they would have to track down and try to bring in Grievous, yep. And all while Grievous and his battle droids, they try to find a way to get off the planet. And that being in the 10th episode, The Deserter. Yep, because in this episode, yeah, Obi-Wan and the clones, yeah, the 501st, them tracking down Grievous on the planet, Sukami. I think I'm saying that right. And when at one point, and when they're fighting the battle droids, Captain Rex would be injured, and he would be taken to a farmhouse to be, healed and such, and they would discover that a farmer, because, the main farmer is not present for now, because we are introduced to a female Twi'lek and her 2 children, and when the clones explained their situation, like, she would oblige and so on. But when they would meet the main farmer himself, oh yeah, because they're very hesitant at first, and they do not like this. They do not like the fact that this farmer is in fact a clone whom is a deserter, because he chose to step away from the war and to live life on his own, and when he would start a family of his own. Yep. Yeah, and what say you, Anchorman? The first things you have to say about episode 10, The Deserter.
I like this episode because of the introduction of LeQuain, the Deserter clone. And I almost thought Rex wasn't going to make it in this episode. When I saw, I had this book before I saw this episode where Rex gets shot. I was thinking, oh no, does he not survive? But I knew he would survive, of course.
Obviously, yeah. And the name of that clone deserter, say his name again?
Cut LeQuain.
Cut LeQuain?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sure I didn't butcher it. Yeah, that being the clone's name. Yeah, I mean, this clone in particularly, because the more that Rex would spend with him and get to know him some more and what life has been like for him, and even when, say, he would join in the action with Rex, and even by a certain point, Rex starts to feel better because some battle droids do become active when, him and his Twi'lek wife being Shia. Yeah, Shia being voiced by Ventress herself, Nika Futterman. Their 2 kids, their son and daughter, Jack being voiced by Kath Suzy, and Sue being voiced by Kara Pithko. Yeah, they're at one point playing out at night, and in this crop field, they would come across these pods, and where, inside are these battle droids, and they accidentally come to life. So, it's up to the farmer clone and Rex to take them on. That was a pretty cool sequence right there. And any comment you have to make, Anchorman, on the clone farmer's family?
I thought they were cool. I like the Twi'lek one and the 2 kids. I like how they each have their own hobbies that they're established to the clone. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially the daughter, most prominently, when she first saw Rex, because making a comment that, you look just like my daddy, that was right there, that was a little hint of, what's this about? Because this is before we see the farmer clone himself. Also, the times we would cut back to Obi-Wan and the other clones trying to hunt and track down Grievous, they were good too. Also, I remember seeing a stilled image of this, and before I saw the episode, and I had many of those, does anybody remember those Clone Wars magazines and all that? Especially, by the time they came out, it was in preparation.
Yeah, I feel nostalgic for those.
Oh yeah, because I'm glad you know what I'm talking about, because most of them, they came out, before, say, what would come next for Clone Wars. So as I recall, a stilled image from this episode where, I first saw Grievous riding on that rhinoceros-type creature that we saw in Attack of the Clones. That was really cool that they brought that creature in Clone Wars. I mean, of course, you know what I'm talking about, Anchorman. And what say you on that, seeing that type of creature that we first saw in Clone War, in Attack of the Clones, and to see it be in Clone Wars?
Which one?
The as I said, the rhinoceros-type creature from Attack of the Clones.
Oh, they looked super cool.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that, like, what'd you think of, like, when seeing that in Clone Wars in this episode, Grievous is riding on it?
I thought that looked interesting.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. And it would not be the first time, like, some of those creatures that we saw in Attack of the Clones in the Geonosian ring, we would see them in the world of Clone Wars. Yep, anyways. Yeah, I mean, just overall, and to round things off with this episode, it was a good one, because ultimately, in the end, because all ends well, and Rex is not going to press charges or bring in the clone farmer. No, because it all ends well, and he lets him live his life happily and with his family. Yeah, that was great to see how the episode ended off right there. All ends well, and that's good. And yeah, just overall, the episode, the 10th episode, The Deserter, that was a good one. And to see that, yeah, because the more we get of the clones in the Clone Wars, and where, sometimes, it depends. There are clones that may or may not have abandoned the war, their posts, their duties, and in the case of this one clone who would be a farmer. Yeah, and just overall, this was a good one. Any other comments you have to say on the Deserter?
I think it was a good episode, seeing what it's like for a clone to not want to be a soldier and actually have a family life.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Now with that episode out of the way, now we come to the 11th episode, and this being another one of my favorite episodes from Season 2, Episode 11, Lightsaber Lost. In this one, and this being one of those episodes that's a one-off episode. It's its own story, just a one-off story. Yeah. In this episode, during a mission in the underworld of Coruscant, at one point a pickpocket alien would steal Ahsoka's lightsaber, and too ashamed to tell her master, Anakin of course, she would set out to look for the thief alone, but would get help from an wise old Jedi Master, which being Tara Sanub, whom being an ancient Jedi Master, also to describe him. Yeah. We'll start with you, Anchorman. We'll start with you once again first, because, yeah, what are the first things you have to say about Lightsaber Lost?
I like this one because Ahsoka has to go on a quest to find her lightsaber, and we see the more underworld aspect of the Coruscant.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like Tara Snoopy. Sorry if I said his name wrong, but I like his white lightsaber, the introduction to it, and with the cane. I thought that was really neat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think he might have mispronounced it, because, hey, look who's talking, because I think how I said it, Tara Sanub, that sounds right. Yeah, Tara Sanub, yeah. But, I mean, just, like, overall, this episode, like, again, for me, it's one of my other favorites to come from Season 2, because, yeah, Ahsoka's attempt to get her lightsaber back, and when she would get the help from Tara Sanub, and on account of the Jedi Librarian pointing out and recommending that, Jedi Master Sanub should help out Ahsoka with this, yeah, he does come in handy, and Sanub in that same territory as Yoda, being a very wise Jedi Master, right, just like, yeah, them trying to search for the specific pickpocket alien thief that stole Ahsoka's lightsaber, like, the information they would get in the parts of the underworld, and eventually it would lead to them finding the pickpocket alien. However, he sold it to someone else. And that's when, like, yeah, we would see two antagonists, which, in this episode, Lone Marcy being voiced by Barriss Offin herself, Meredith Salinger, and Cassie Cryer, being voiced by Jamie King, and whom also being the voice of Aura Singh in the Clone Wars, the bounty hunter. And yeah, because Jamie King, she had done a lot of other good voice acting besides Aura in Clone Wars. Yep. And what say you, Anchorman, on the two female antagonists themselves, Lone Marcy and Cassie Cryer. Oh, and one more, hold on, Anchorman, because before I, turn over to you, because to acknowledge most prominently, Cassie, because the alien species that she is, and she's the one that's holding Ahsoka's lightsaber, her being a Tyrellian Django jumper, and that alien species most prominently being one of the 3 Inquisitors that we would see in the last episode of Season 2 of Star Wars Rebels. Yeah, very interesting. All right, but now we'll turn over to you, Anchorman. Yeah, the first things you have to say about those two.
I really like these 2 villains. I think one of them is like a Django jumper.
Correct.
I think later appear in Star Wars Rebels as one of the Inquisitors.
As I just said. Yeah. And anything to say on Lone Mercer herself?
I think she was okay. I'd have to see what she looks like since it's been a bit.
Unfortunately, there's not much of her in this, but she was okay because. Like her, because being a pinkish alien, and, the way her eyes blink is, like a different angle. That's pretty interesting, yeah. But, just like, like, when, like, say, they would come to an apartment building where, someone that Lone Mercer was supposedly in a relationship with had died and such, was murdered, Ahsoka would investigate further in the apartment, and when she would discover Cassie, whom has her lightsaber, and during this, like, Tara Sanoob trying to console with Marcy, but ultimately, yeah, he would learn, of course, like, what Lone Marcy's really doing and such. Yep. And with Ahsoka chasing after Cassie Cryer was a really cool sequence, just trying to chase after her, and, like, even, like, say when they would make their way to, like, a billboard that has a video message of Chancellor Palpatine, yeah, and with the use of the lightsaber that Cassie does with it, just like, yeah, and up to when they are, like, say, on a pole, but ultimately, yeah, because Cassie would catch up with Lone Marcy, yeah, then Ahsoka would be met up with Tara Sanoob, and Tara Sanoob did put a tracking device to know exactly where they're going to go to next, and that's when we would come to the sequence where, yeah, the train, yep, that, and that was a really cool sequence there, and where ultimately, because, yeah, Cassie would be taken down, not just by Ahsoka, but Sanoob stepping in, the cane that he would be using, because really, like, when he pulls half of it off, it's a lightsaber. Very clever. And this is the first time in Clone Wars where we see a Jedi with a white lightsaber. And the next time we would see a Jedi, well, technically no longer a Jedi using a white lightsaber, would be Ahsoka herself. Interesting. Yeah, to think of as of now, of course. Yeah, but ultimately, our 2 main antagonists, they're taken down, and there's one more moment between Sanoob and Ahsoka, where Sanoob takes Ahsoka over to one of Yoda's classes, and yeah, old friends reuniting, yep, because Sanoob and Yoda, they're good old friends, and there's a lesson that Ahsoka gives to the Padawans, that the weapon that they hold in their hands, like, they can never lose it. And as Obi-Wan especially specifically said to Anakin, that this weapon is your life. And that's true on account of the whole thing of the Jedis. Yep, can never lose the lightsabers. Yeah. But yeah, just overall, Lightsaber Lost, that being a really good episode, and again, that being another one of my favorites from Season 2. Everything that Lightsaber Lost has to offer, it was really good. And yeah, any last comments you have on Lightsaber Lost, Anchorman?
Yeah, I do like this episode because of the goose chase of the lightsaber. I thought that was really nice.
Indeed, yeah. All right, moving on, because now we get into some more juicy material. Yep, because now we come to the Mandalorian Arc. Yes, because this is something that even Dave Filoni was eager to do. And, of course, in the behind the scenes, when Filoni describes that when George at one point came in and said that we're going to do the Mandalorians and doing it in the Clone Wars, like, Dave Filoni just could not wait for this. Like, oh boy, just like, yeah. And the specific details that Filoni was talking about, the history and all of the Mandalorians, them being such a big part of the world of Star Wars, especially in the comics. Yeah, I almost said comments. Well, not to mention that the specific Mandalorian armor that they wear, well, because that being the same type of armor that, say, Jango and his son Boba wear. Yep, because, I mean, here's the thing, because Jango, there was a time he was a part of the Mandalorian, but he went off to do his own thing, being a bounty hunter, and then his son being a bounty hunter like his father before him and all that. Yeah. But yeah, so, yeah, episodes 12, 13, and 14, yeah, being the Mandalorian Arc / plot. Yep. And, the 3 episodes in the Mandalorian Arc, being called, episode 12, The Mandalorian Plot, episode 13, The Voyage of Temptation, and episode 14, Duchess of Mandalore. Alright, description / the story on episode 12. Obi-Wan and Satine investigate rumors that the Mandalorians have sided with the Separatists, in fear that they may have resurrected their Death Watch army. Okay. Now, description / the story on episode 13. While in transit to Coruscant, assassin droids infiltrate the Jedi ship while defending Satine. Obi-Wan realizes he still has strong feelings for her. And finally, episode 14, Duchess of Mandalore, description / the story. When Satine is accused of murder, the Senate orders an invasion of Mandalore. Obi-Wan faces a race against time to prove the Separatists are behind it all. Okay, Anchorman, we'll once again start with you, because, yeah, what say you on the Mandalorian arc with episodes 12, 13, and 14?
I like this arc. I know there are, people who are fans of the expanded universe for some reason don't like this arc because they think it retcons the Mandalorians in the Legends timeline, but I don't think it really does. And people think it retcons, the Jango Fett comic where he's a Mandalorian. I don't think it does either because they probably just don't believe Jango was a Mandalorian when he was a Mandalorian. And then, the years later, after each of these episodes came out, the Mandalorian says that Boba and Jango were Mandalorians. So, yeah, I do like this arc because of the Mandalorians. I thought they were the coolest looking, for sure. I even have their Legos from all the way back.
Cool. Yeah. And any comment you have, because, how you feel that, it is established that Jango was once a Mandalorian?
Yeah, I think he was, since I did read the Jango Fett Open Seasons comic, which was really good. I don't know why people get mad, because they think it's retconning his role in those comics, but like I said, I don't think it does.
No, and besides, it's the people at Lucasfilm / Star Wars, they're doing this themselves. And they know what they're doing. They're not dummies. I mean, back then, But, to me, because I genuinely had no knowledge that apparently, because at that time, nobody really was fond of this arc. I mean, to me, not to my knowledge, but, I liked the arc, and I'm sure the same goes for a majority of you. Let us know in the comments section. And how you feel, specifically, because, yeah, with the whole thing that both Jango and his son Boba, they were part of Mandalore and all that. The Mandalorians and so on. Yeah. But to dive in the episodes themselves, because, yeah, again, where we get our debut, where we see a lot of, say, Mandalore and on account of the Mandalorians, and when we're first introduced to Duchess Satine. Anchorman, we'll start with you. What are the first things you have to say about Duchess Satine herself?
I like her character a lot. I love her relationship with Obi-Wan. It shows that Obi-Wan does have feelings for somebody, and he was somewhat willing to disobey the Jedi Order to be with her. but because he was committed to being a Jedi, he couldn't really commit to his feelings to her.
Yep. It was this close at times to just leaving the whole thing of being a Jedi. Nope, he's stuck with it. Yep. Yeah, and as for me, because Duchess Satine was definitely a really great character to come from the Clone Wars, and interesting to see, because, okay, well, besides Anakin being the one that has love, well, technically, so does Obi-Wan. And here's the thing, because it would be established in the comics that, yeah, Obi-Wan and Duchess, they knew each other long before, say, the Clone Wars began, and before, you know, Anakin and Obi-Wan crossed paths, because, yeah, and if you're aware of this too, Anchorman, because, yeah, like, most prominently, like, in the world of Star Wars comics, like, they were on a mission together, and Qui-Gon Jinn was there, too. So, that's basically, like, yeah, that's a good example there where, you know, how long both Duchess and Obi-Wan, they knew each other, and for the first time, just, yeah. But the world of Mandalore is really cool. To see it being brought to life, and being introduced to some of the other characters, and whom work alongside with Satine, like, the Prime Minister, Almec, and yeah, the Prime Minister being voiced by the late Julian Holloway, Tel Merrick being voiced by Greg Proops, yeah. A great talent. He's done a lot of great voice acting. Like, I know him best in, say, The Nightmare Before Christmas. Like, he most prominently voices the Harlequin Demon. He's also been in True Jackson VP, and he has been in Star Wars before. He's the voice of one of those two-headed aliens in the pod race, you know? You know, because that's absolutely right. And a big turn up. And yep, that's him. So, you know who I'm talking about. And Pre Vizsla. Yeah, Pre Vizsla being voiced by Jon Favreau. And spoilers, to think that all three of them, they worked alongside with Satine, they would become nothing but big flat-out traitors to Mandalore. Oh, yes. Because, yeah, I mean, what say you on all three of those characters, Anchorman? Pre Vizsla, Prime Minister Almec, and Tal Merrick.
Yeah, I really like her characters a lot. We see them as the corrupt parts of Mandalore. And I really do like Pre Vizsla. He's easily like one of the coolest looking Mandalorians. And seeing him voiced by Jon Favreau was really nice, since he would go on to do The Mandalorian years later.
Talk about foreshadowing right there. Well, not to mention that, well, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, they have a history together where they knew each other, and they had been good friends even before Jon Favreau would find himself being a part of Star Wars and working on a piece of Star Wars material himself, bringing it to life. Because, yeah, like, if you recall, Anchorman, because, yeah, fun fact, because when it came to the early days of The Mandalorian show, and when, say, Jon Favreau appeared alongside with Dave Filoni at a at a panel at Star Wars Celebration, etc., where they both mentioned that, Jon was one of the first people to see, like, early, like, footage and all that when Clone Wars was beginning, and Filoni was one of the first early people to see what was going on with Iron Man, and the fact that they were both working on each of those projects around the same time, and the fact they started that same year, because to think that 2008, you know, both Clone Wars and the MCU would begin, that's amazing, yeah, to think of. And to think, because those two, eventually they would come together, and they would work on a new piece of Star Wars material, and being the first ever live-action Star Wars show as we know and love it. Yeah. And, yeah, again, to think, because pre-Mandalorian, he voiced a Mandalorian himself, Jon Favreau, Pre Vizsla, because, yeah, I concur, Pre Vizsla being such a really awesome antagonist, and when it would be revealed that he is a part of Mandalore, the Mandalorians, and he's the leader of the group of Mandalorians. Yeah. All right, but the more to say on the first of the Mandalorian arc, the Mandalore plot. Like, yeah, anything else you've got to say, Anchorman, and with episode 12?
Do we we see, is this the episode where we see Obi-Wan versus Pre Vizsla, or that's the next one?
Yes, it's this one. Yep, it is.
I do like their lightsaber duel where we get the introduction of the Darksaber. I thought it would look super awesome to first see it, the black lightsaber.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and to speed things up some still, because, yeah, I mean, just overall, because with what goes on in the Mandalorian plot is really great, and yes, because of course I was going to acknowledge this, good thing you beat me to it, when we are introduced to the Darksaber, yeah. And here's the thing, because for me, my memory's a bit fuzzy. Okay, obviously, I'm sure as though that even before the Clone Wars happened, the Darksaber must have come somewhere in the world of Star Wars, like, most prominently in the comics, clearly. I mean, what say you, Anchorman? Like, before Clone Wars, did you know anything about the Darksaber pre-Clone Wars?
I think I just knew about it in the Clone Wars, that it was just the black lightsaber for Mandalore.
Right. Yeah, I think overall the same goes for me, because I most prominently got to first know about the Darksaber when it came to Season 2 of the Clone Wars. Yeah, because, I mean, here's the thing, because it would be established that apparently the Darksaber was stolen by the Jedi, and now all of Mandalorians, like, they claim the Darksaber, whomever wields it. But what would come next for the Darksaber, and whom else would wield it next? Yeah, the interesting history of the Darksaber as we all know and love. And yeah, I mean, the Darksaber has a really cool design and such. Very different from, say, the Jedi and Sith lightsabers we've seen, because the way it ignites and the way it looks, you know, the beaming light, it's really interesting. And the way it moves, I tell ya, a very interesting designed lightsaber for sure. But yeah, I mean, that whole lightsaber fight between Obi-Wan and Pre Vizsla was really awesome. Just, I mean, yeah, overall, like, again, to still speed things up some, because, like, yeah, the first episode of the Mandalorian Arc, the Mandalore plot, that was really good. Yeah. But then, yeah, moving on to the 13th episode and the second installment in the Mandalorian Arc, Voyage of Temptation. This one, to me, yeah, it's one of my favorites in the Mandalorian Arc, yeah. In Voyage of Temptation, because, yeah, Obi-Wan and Anakin, because they would be put to the task to guard Duchess Satine and the members of the Council of Neutral Systems as they would travel to Coruscant aboard the luxury vessel Cornet, yeah. However, there is a traitor amongst them, and whom has smuggled aboard a spider-shaped assassin droid. Yeah, and those characters that are there, because, yeah, like, Tal Merrick being there, Skywalker, Rex is there, R2, and also Orn Free Ta is also there, and, of course, Satine. And this would be the first time that Anakin and Satine would meet. And there would be, like, say, a few heated moments towards Obi-Wan and Satine, you know. Also, the ship captain, whom being voiced by David Accord, yeah. This is interesting because when they go into hyperspace, he says to the crew member, engage. To think is someone in Star Wars says engage, and when most prominently in Star Trek, you know, this is not the first time. I mean, it's, you know, some various words in Star Wars we've also heard in Star Trek. I've heard, say, like, Rebel Alliance, the Federation, stuff like that, you know, and I'm sure you probably know the same thing too, but anyways. But yeah, okay, but coming to you, Anchorman, because what more do you have to say? Because, yeah, now they're up to Voyage of Temptation.
This is the one where they're on the ship protecting Satine.
Yes, as I did say.
I think this is the one where Anakin stabs the traitor.
Yes.
And he's completely okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just overall, like, yeah, what did you think of the 13th episode?
I think it was a good one for sure. I even like when Anakin says that Obi-Wan's girlfriend.
Yes, of course. Can't forget to.
He is married himself and he's hiding it, so it's definitely Anakin being a little hypocritical since he's hiding his feelings too.
Yeah, but little does Anakin realize that technically Obi-Wan at some point did already know. Just, yeah. But it was very good of Obi-Wan to, of course, keep that secret and for Anakin's sake. Yeah. But everything, other things to mention about this episode, because at some point, and then in a holding cell of cargoes, shipment and all that, one by one, like some clone troopers would be taken down by, this spider-shaped assassin droid, and when, this giant spider-shaped assassin droid would spawn miniature versions of itself, and because one of them managing to, place in a jar, and, well, it would come down to say where, the way it's reacting to each of the members of the Senate, and when the attention would be turned to Tal Merrick, well, that's when it's discovered that Tal Merrick is the traitor, And, this is where we see that, he has betrayed Satine, he takes her hostage, and keeping the ship hostage as well. He kills everyone on the bridge of the ship. Even the captain, he was like, no, please, I beg you. But, no, he flat out shoots him, and Satine, rightfully so, saying to him, you're a horrid monsters. And with Greg Props, his voice performance that he delivers to Tal Merrick is so great. And with the clone troopers led by Rex, and with Obi-Wan and Anakin trying to take on the spider assassin droid, is really cool. Then it would come down to, a showdown where, because what now? Because Tal Merrick has a remote button that will basically destroy all of the ship and such. But like you said, Anchorman, and to speed things up some still, because ultimately, Anakin is right behind Tal Merrick, and he would stab him through the chest, and Obi-Wan just being annoyed, Anakin. Hey, he was gonna kill everyone on the ship. I mean, it's true, because they were out of options by this point. Everything was happening so fast, just had to flat out kill him, and rightfully so. And then, say, there was a few moments with, say, Pre Vizsla, where Tal Merrick got into communication with Pre Vizsla with what he was doing. Then a moment where Pre Vizsla got in contact with Count Dooku, whom, because, he does at one point appear during this arc, so, Alright, but just to round things off with Voyage of Temptation. It was another good episode, and for it being being the second installment in the Mandalorian arc. Any last remaining comments you have to say, Anchorman, about the Voyage of Temptation?
I liked this episode. It was really good.
All right, good. And as I said, for me, because again, it's probably one of my favorites in the Mandalorian arcs. Okay, all right, now the last one in the Mandalorian arc. Episode 14, Duchess of Mandalore. Because, in this one, on Coruscant, and once they've made their way to Coruscant, well, word reaching that Duchess Satine, Death Watch is mobilizing and sparking, a primitive Republic invasion, and on run from Republic authorities, because at one point Satine would be framed, and Obi-Wan would set off to discover the group's true motives. Now, once again, starting with you, Anchorman, because, what say you on Duchess of Mandalore?
This is the one where Satine gets framed for murder and she's on the run?
Yes, as I did say.
I think it was a good one for sure.
Yeah, definitely, because by the time that they've made their way to Coruscant, and, well, things wouldn't take too long when more hell breaks loose, and with what the Death Watch are doing next, / the Mandalorians. You know what, and while I'm saying that, because, what say you, Anchorman, because the Death Watch, because sometimes the Mandalorians, they go by Death Watch. What say you on that,
I think it's, a different clan for Mandalorians. They're viewed as the traitor Mandalorian group.
Where they're basically really evil and such,
Yeah.
And in some ways, I'm just now thinking of this. Basically, these group of Mandalorians, being evil, and they're in some ways terrorists in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it, because that's exactly what they are, In the world of Star Wars, they are in some ways terrorists. So, there you go. But anyways, because at one point with the Duchess being framed, and now with her being chased after, she's undercover and seeking help from Obi-Wan, and just ultimately, to speed things up some still, because, when discovering the truth on what is really going on in the case of Mandalorian, the whole thing of Death Watch, and working with the Separatists, just, very interesting. And not to mention, the various locations we see in this episode on Coruscant. Actually, some of these locations we would see once again, but being brought to life in the realm of live action of Star Wars, like most prominently The Mandalorian. And I think you know what I'm referring to, Anchorman, because like that one part of Coruscant where those big rocks and such, that specific location. We see it in this episode, then by seeing it again, in the third season of The Mandalorian. Just it's really amazing, because all these various things that we have seen being brought to life in the world of animation, now being brought to life in live action of Star Wars. That's just great. Yeah. Any other comments you have to say about the Duchess of Mandalore, Anchorman?
I think we see Commander Fox, and he's known as a clone who makes bad decisions. I think this one definitely shows.
Yeah. I mean, that's not to say, of course, Commander Fox is just doing his duty. A good, loyal clone trooper serving for the war and all that. Yeah, and a good character. Of course, having his moments and all that, as you said, Anchorman, just But any other things you have to say about this episode?
Yeah, it was definitely good for sure.
All right. Yeah, I mean, just overall, the final entry in the Mandalorian arc, and where we first see the Mandalorians, and of course, these group of Mandalorians being referred to as Death Watch. Oh, it's just really great. Yeah, another great episode. And again, that being the last episode, part of the Mandalorian arc, episode 14, Duchess of Mandalore. Yeah, with what you've said, Anchorman, it was a good episode, and the same goes for me. All right. Now, on to the next episode, which, episode 15 being another episode that it is its own episode. However, it isn't linked with a couple of episodes that would make their way into the third season. Yeah, because in episode 15, Senate Murders, well, Padme is working to introduce a bill to minimize military spending and halting the creation of clone troopers. However, when one of her most trusted allies is poisoned, she and Bail Organa would set out to explore the murderer. Okay, once again, start with you, Anchorman. What are the first things you have to say about the Senate Murders?
I thought it was interesting because we see one of the senators from Attack of the Clones, the Rodian one,
yes,
get murdered, and we feel bad for him.
Mm-hmm. And as we had seen in season 1, the good friendship that both Onkanda Farr, Senator Farr, just to call him by that Senator Farr and Senator Amidala have, and just to flat out see that he gets poisoned and he dies. It's unfortunate. Then when a policeman, because the policemen that we see in Star Wars and on Coruscant are pretty interesting. And the way that the policemen are done in Star Wars in a good way. Lieutenant Tan Divo. I think I'm saying that right. Being voiced by SpongeBob SquarePants himself, Tom Kenny. Not only has he been the voice of Newt Gunray in the Clone Wars and amongst other characters, but also voicing Lieutenant Tan. And fun fact, Lieutenant Tan is because he is modeled after, say, Peter Lorre. As I recall. Mm-hmm. What say you, Anchorman, on the character of Lieutenant Tan Divo?
Isn't he? Oh wait, the Tom Kenny voice one?
Yes, as I said, Tom Kenny voicing him.
Yeah, it was cool seeing Tom Kenny. I like that he had a small role in Star Wars for this show.
Well, as I said, he also had been the voice of Newt Gunray in the Clone Wars, and amongst other voices. But just overall, what say you on the character of Lieutenant Tan Divo, as I asked before?
I think a lot of people didn't like that character, but I didn't really mind him.
I didn't even really pay attention to knowing that people didn't like the character, because I'm on the same page as you. I had no problem with him. He didn't bother me. He was cool, but, he had an attitude and just, like, wanting to do things his specific way, like being that kind of character. But, I mean, at the same time, of course, he was determined on, because, of course, knowing and to track down whom, as he said, wanted to hurt Senator Farr. And yeah, because with what goes on in this episode with Bail Organa and Padme, yeah, it's pretty interesting, because, in this season, because going from zombies to a murder mystery, that's really awesome. But what would come next a little later in the second season? Yeah, very interesting. Also, Mon Mothma being in there too, and Mon Mothma, because, so I recall this is where she does get speaking lines right here. Yeah, because Mon Mothma being voiced by Kath Soucie. Yep. And also, like, a couple of other senators that we see, because, Hal Bertani, who being voiced by Jamila McCallan. Yeah, that was one of the other Rhodey aliens. And Lolo Purs, being one of the Kaminoans. Yeah, I said it right. Yeah, Kaminoans from Kamino, being voiced by Jennifer Hale. Well, just long story short, because ultimately whom wanted to hurt Senator Farr and did so was the same species as Farr. Yep. And anything you've got to say on that character whom turns out to be the one who was responsible for poisoning Senator Farr, Anchorman?
I think it showed that he was a slimy senator from the beginning.
Well, from her point of view,
Yeah.
Just didn't like the way that her senator, from her planet was what was specifically going on. Just like, Also, Gideon Emery also voicing, he voices me Deechai. Yeah. But just, overall, the Senate murders episode, which being the 15th episode, that was another good episode. Because, with what that episode had to offer, where we've got a murder mystery going on, and it's up to Padme and along with Bail Organa to investigate this. That was really cool. Yeah. Yeah, just again, episode 15, that was good. All right. Next one, because now we come to episode 16, which being another standalone episode, and this episode just so happens to be, it takes place right before the events of the Clone Wars movie, and where Anakin would be introduced to Ahsoka on the planet Kristavus. Yep. Episode 16, Cat and Mouse. In this episode, Anakin is tasked to fly a prototypical cloaked ship to get supplies to Bail Organa on Kristavus, but can't resist an urge to attack a blockade headed by the infamous Admiral Trench. Okay, once again, starting with you, Anchorman, I have a good feeling, because, with what you'll have to say, what say you on episode 16, Cat and Mouse?
This is technically the first episode of the show, chronologically.
Which I established,
I think
yes.
It's a decent first introduction to the Clone Wars. It definitely felt like a good start to it, with seeing just Anakin
Indeed.
and Obi-Wan work together in the early days of the Clone Wars.
Absolutely. And of course, seeing as how that, the Clone Wars, it takes place, after the events of Attack of the Clones, and as we know. But anything else you've got to say about this episode in general, with what goes on?
Yeah, it was good. I did like the Admiral Trench's introduction. He was cool.
Oh, yes.
Cool-looking Senate.
Absolutely.
Evil separatist.
Indeed, yeah. Admiral Trench. To go ahead and acknowledge Admiral Trench, because, yeah, D. Bradley Baker voicing Admiral Trench, this spider-like creature, whom, yeah, being an admiral and part of the Separatists and all that, he has a cool-looking design, and I'm one of those, and maybe you are too, Anchorman. I don't find him creepy, but, you know, I'm sure some of you do. Just, like, yeah, like, at times, like, he would always, like, click and such, you know. That's just great, you know. So with him blocking any Republic ships trying to make their way to Gustavus, like, yeah, he means business. And, you know, not to mention that this episode, it's kind of going in that same territory as the Wrath of Khan. Because, yeah, of course, for those of us that know and love Wrath of Khan, because we know specifically what goes on in Wrath of Khan and the way that, yeah, our main antagonist and protagonist, they battle one another in space. They never cross paths in the flesh, because most of the time they're in their starships. Yep, because that's exactly what's going on in here. And Kevin Kiner, because even mimicking a little bit on how the music and score sounded in Wrath of Khan. So that's really awesome. You know, the fact, because it's not every day in the world of Star Wars where we see any ship that has a cloaking device, and which that most prominently being in Star Trek. But anyways, and you just overall, it's clear, of course, there's a lot of love and respect for each Star Wars and Star Trek. They have the utmost respects for each one of them, even being inspired by each of themselves. You get what I'm saying, and with Cat and Mouse most prominently. But yeah, and the cloaked ship that Anakin flies in is really cool. Like, what say you on the cloaked ship itself, Anchorman?
I thought it looked cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very, very long and such. That's pretty interesting. Also, the fact that Admiral Yularen, he accompanies Anakin and some of the clone troopers that are going on this mission in this cloaked ship, because Yularen would discover that Admiral Trench is present, and he is well familiar with Admiral Trench. He has battled with him before, and he has some pretty good knowledge on Admiral Trench that he would share with Anakin and all that. But yeah, to still speed things up some, just ultimately, because like in the end, and with what Skywalker specifically does, and with the cloaked ship, and even when missiles are chasing after them, and by flying past the station that Admiral Trench is on, well, one of the Separatist ships, the missiles would strike directly at Trench, and it seems as though that might have killed Trench, right? How could he have survived that? Well, he did, and we would not see him until in the 6th season of Clone Wars, then when it would come to season 7. Yeah, and just ultimately, mission accomplished, managing to deliver the supplies directly to Gustavus, and then when, say, the hidden enemy would happen, then the Clone Wars movie, all happening on Gustavus, indeed. Yeah, I mean, just overall, Cat and Mouse, it was another excellent episode in the 2nd season of the Clone Wars, and yeah, where in this episode, because it takes place it's basically the start of Clone Wars altogether, and before the Clone Wars movie. Yeah. And any last comments you have on Cat and Mouse, Anchorman?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So that's it on that episode. Moving on to episode 17. We're halfway there in season 2. So, episode 17, Bounty Hunters, being another standalone episode, an episode of its own. In this one, Obi-Wan, Anakin, Ahsoka, they would crash land on the planet Felucia, which we've seen a good chunk of times in Star Wars. And they are reluctantly joined, they would reluctantly join 4 bounty hunters in defending a village from Hondo Onaka's pirate gang. Yeah. Now, this was another good episode, too, and where, because, well, the fact that, luckily, the Jedi and the bounty hunters, they are on good terms in this episode. But the fact that they, they become allies, to join forces to take down Hondo when he steps in. Because, yeah, once again, Hondo Onaka steps in, and Jim Cummings, of course, voicing Hondo. Because, yeah, Hondo and his pirates terrorizing these alien villagers, and, yeah, again, it's up to the bounty hunters and the Jedi, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, to defend, and so on. Okay, but coming back to you, Anchorman, what are the first things you have to say about this episode?
I do like this one. I don't remember it too well, but it was cool seeing more underrated bounty hunters than the usual ones.
Indeed. And actually, because some of them we are first introduced to, like most prominently Embo. Yeah, we would be first introduced to Embo, another awesome bounty hunter right next to Cad Bane, if you concur. So, and also Embo being voiced by Dave Filoni. Yeah, because sometimes Dave Filoni has lended his voice to a couple of characters. And hey, one of the other characters he would be the voice of besides Embo is, of course, Chopper. Yeah. And the other characters like, Sugi being voiced by Anna Graves. There's also Cassis being voiced by Greg Baldwin. Delaney being voiced by Stephen Stanton. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, this episode itself, like, where the bounty hunters and the Jedi, they help out the alien villagers to defend themselves, even getting them into combat. And ultimately, when the showdown happens between the Jedi, the bounty hunters, and the pirates, yeah. And, of course, since we all know, on account of the first season, Anakin and Obi-Wan have dealt with Hondo before, and, of course, they're not going to take any shits from Hondo. Pardon my French, but it's true. Ultimately, because Hondo would be beaten down, and, yeah, like a truce and all that, because Hondo would come to terms, and, yeah. It's great to see, because with what happens all throughout this episode, and with what the Jedi and the bounty hunters do together in this alliance, and knowing, of course, that after this, they're going to go back to being odds, and, whenever, like, say, the bounty hunters do bounty hunting stuff, the Jedi will be there to take care of what they're doing, and to take them down. And yeah, in this episode, to see most of these bounty hunters make their debut, especially most prominently Embo, yeah, fantastic. And to see Hondo once again, he, of course, did not disappoint, because Hondo being Hondo. Also, I do want to point this out, and while I'm thinking of it, because, and I'm sure maybe you would remember this, Anchorman, because right before the episode begins, there's a dedication card, yeah. That's in memory of Akira Kurosawa, I'm probably butchered his last name, but yeah, whom was basically a influential film director whom George Lucas greatly admired, and he was very much inspired by the works of him, like, particularly of the 1958 movie The Hidden Fortress. And so, yeah, it was Lucas's decision to just simply dedicate him. Just very interesting. Not that I'm complaining, but anyways, just pretty interesting. And this wouldn't be the first time that we would have an episode of Clone Wars where there's a dedication and right before the episode starts. The logo shows, the music, and all that. But yeah, just overall, Bounty Hunters, it was another good standalone episode in Season 2. Really good. Just, yeah, and any last comments you have on Bounty Hunters, Anchorman?
I think I'm good.
All right. All right. Moving on, because we get into some more juicy territory. And we're down to 2 more arcs, guys. 2 more left. Because now we come to the second to last arc. Well, yeah, it's 2 episodes. Episode 18, The Zillo Beast. Yes. So with what happens in the Zillo Beast episode? Yep, well, when the Republic detonates a powerful electroproton bomb, to settle the Battle of Malastare, it accidentally awakens an ancient and thought to be extinct Zillo Beast. Once again, starting with you, Anchorman, what are the first things you have to say about the 18th episode and slash the first installment in the Zillo Beast arc?
I like the Zillo Beast Arc because of how different the Zillo Beast looked, and seeing them go up against it was interesting. And we always wondered what happened to the Zillo Beast after the Clone Wars until the Bad Batch answered it years later.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, as for me, because I, of course, remember when these episodes debuted, and I found it pretty interesting. I mean, all of us did. Because, and here's another thing, because, you know, even as Dave Filoni said in the behind the scenes, where early on in Season 2, they did zombies, they did a murder mystery, and, of course, when The Mandalorian stepped in, and right up to here, because doing something Godzilla, and in the case of Dave Filoni, because he is such a huge Godzilla fan, even explaining in the behind the scenes that he used to watch the original Godzilla film every Thanksgiving at his grandparents' house. And when it would come to Clone Wars where, yeah, the idea of doing something Godzilla related, and in the case of being the Zillo Beast, oh, just interesting and fantastic. They pulled it off. You know, the fact that it's this giant beast that seems impossible to take down, but ultimately, with what the Jedi and the clones figure out, yeah. And not to mention, because, yeah, where the Zillo Beast resides, well, it's on the home planet of the Dugs. Yeah, the same alien species of Sebulba, whom we saw in Phantom Menace. Yep. And the leader of the Dugs, and basically they're trying to come to terms with the Dugs to allow Republic ships to pass through their sector in order for supplies and all that. But when it would come to, say, the Zillo Beast, well, here's the thing, and long story short, the Dugs, they want to kill the Zillo Beast. But in the case of the Republic, they want to bring the Zillo Beast alive, and especially Chancellor Palpatine. He wants the Zillo Beast being brought back, you know, to Coruscant alive. But the Dugs, they're not thrilled with this. Because if they don't come to terms with the Dugs, then they will not sign a treaty and where, yeah, Republic ships and all that can come into their sector and all that. So, yeah. And that's when at a certain point, they would pretend, in the case of the Dugs, that they will kill the Zillo Beast with the specific tanks they have to shoot at the Zillo Beast, just to have it be completely in deep sleep and, yeah, to make it look like the Zillo Beast has died. And, yeah, the intenseful stuff, like, when they would first discover the Zillo Beast, like, down in this pothole, you know, big hole, and some of the clones being killed by the Zillo Beast. I do, at one point, heard the Wilhelm scream in there, and with Mace Windu and Anakin Skywalker being there, as well as R2-D2, and yeah, also, a new character here, Dr. Sionver Ball. Yeah, she was a pretty interesting character. But coming back to you, Anchorman, because with what I've talked about of the Zillo Beast episode, like, yeah, what say you?
The one where he goes to Coruscant I like that one, where the Jedi have to use their lightsabers, and it doesn't work at all until they come up with a trap to take it out. Okay, but
we haven't gotten to that yet, because we're still on the first one of the Zillo Beast arc, because anything you've got to say on that, you know?
I like the scene where Anakin hops on R2, and then they literally have to fly their way out of there.
Yeah, that was an amusing moment.
Because of how powerful it is.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't hurt to have at least a few amusing moments and intenseful stuff like this. And what'd you think on, say, yeah, where we see the expandance of Sebulba's species, the Dugs, and the fact that the Zillo Beast residing on their home planet, and yeah, because just overall, seeing the Dugs appear in Clone Wars.
Oh, they were cool.
Yeah, they are cool. And also, what say you on Dr. Soanver Ball, and whom, you know, would then study the Zillo Beast? What say you on her?
I don't remember what she looked like. If someone showed me, maybe I would remember her.
You might have to, if by all means you can look up an image. Just type in Dr. Ball. It's B-O and 2 L's. Yeah. But I just think, but for me, because I think overall Dr. Ball was a good character. And yeah, even like say, to speed things up some still, because like, yeah, and towards the end of the episode, the fact that Chancellor Palpatine, like, wanting to bring the Zillo Beast back to Coruscant, just like unheard of. Like, who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, but to go ahead and come up to that episode, yep, because yep, just overall the first entry of the Zillo Beast arc was really good. Episode 18, definitely, where it starts off and when we're first introduced to the Zillo Beast. Because yeah, in episode 19, the Zillo Beast strikes back. Well, the Zillo Beast having been captured and brought to Coruscant for testing, and Chancellor Palpatine wanting to learn the secrets of its invulnerability, but only managing to make the Beast angry enough to escape. And yeah, in this episode, the Zillo Beast can sense that Chancellor Palpatine is not a good man. Of course he's not. Little does the Jedi realize and all that. But we, the audience, know. The Zillo Beast being a very smart creature there. Yep. Not being very fond of Chancellor Palpatine's presence and all. Even when the Zillo Beast is determined to kill the Chancellor. Yeah. But that episode itself, like, yeah, and come back to you, Anchorman, because if the more you have to say now that we're up to the Zillo Beast Strikes Back, what say you?
The title is literally like Empire Strikes Back.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, the Zillo Beast tearing Coruscant apart was wild, and the way they take it out was good. I like seeing Yoda and Anya Sakura use their lightsabers together.
Oh, yes.
And they have to use the gas to take it out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That sums up with what happens there. But yeah, other things to mention, because yeah, like say when the Zillo Beast would escape, and it wouldn't take too long, and when the Doctor sees that, yeah, hell is breaking loose in Coruscant, and sure enough, the sirens! Like, this is the first time we're hearing sirens on Coruscant. Golly, because this being such an intenseful moment here. Man. And just, yeah, it's just like, that's a scary and / not a good sign when sirens are let out. And yeah, again, in the case of the Zillo Beast, because, you know, destroying parts of Coruscant, and when he's making his way to try to kill Chancellor Palpatine, and of course with the clone troopers on their way, and with Mace Windu and Obi-Wan going there too, and as you brought up, yeah, Aayla Secura and Yoda stepping in as well, and with what they tried to do, and yeah, Anakin, Padme, Palpatine, and along with them C-3PO and R2-D2, them scrambling to not get attacked by the Zillo Beast, and the funny moments we get from 3PO at times, just, yeah. Then when it comes to them, you know, firing those gas bombs, which, yeah, that ultimately takes down the Zillo Beast. And it does become an emotional moment right there. And, well, the last thing we see is, well, Palpatine giving the Doctor specific instructions to clone the Beast. And yeah, like you brought up early on, Anchorman, where we would wait until, say, the Bad Batch, we would get more of the Zillo Beast. And yeah, because where the Zillo Beast would be cloned. Yep. But yeah, just overall, the Zillo Beast arc, that was a good one. Yep, the Zillo Beast and the Zillo Beast Strikes Back. And with what happens in the second and last episode was amazing. Unheard of, just, yeah. And any last comments you have on the Zillo Beast Strikes Back?
Yeah, I did like its return in the Bad Batch, because it finally answered where it's been this whole time.
Exactly. Yeah, because where we were left off, that Palpatine wanted the Zillo Beast to be cloned, that was it. And yeah, good thing when it came to the Bad Batch, that would establish it. Mm-hmm. All right, we now come to our last arc, the last 3 episodes of Season 2. Here we go. So, Episode 20, Death Trap. And I of course remember seeing the promos for this. The fact that Boba Fett, and of course that being young Boba Fett, making his debut in the Clone Wars, and what was going on with Boba Fett after the events of Attack of the Clones. Yeah. So, in Death Trap, determined to have his revenge on Mace Windu, Boba Fett would infiltrate the Jedi cruiser Endurance as part of a group of young clone cadets. Yeah, this was pretty interesting, and not to mention that Boba is in league with a couple of bounty hunters that they're waiting for the right time to step in and to, because with what Boba's going to do. And what's great is that Boba Fett, once again being played by Daniel Logan, voicing Boba, and by this point Daniel sounding a bit older, but, it was great for Daniel Logan to voice all of the young clone cadets, and to continue voicing Boba Fett throughout the Clone Wars. What are the first things you have to say, Anchorman, about Episode 20? Death Trap.
It was cool seeing Boba return as a young Boba Fett, where he has to infiltrate the clone facility, and he's really just trying to take out Mace Windu, and he literally almost does.
Yep. And what say you? Because the fact that the kid, like Daniel Logan, who was Boba Fett in Attack of the Clones, he came back, rightfully so, to voice Boba.
Oh yeah, it was really nice to see him. I did see him at a convention a while back, which was fun.
Nice. Oh, I mean, because Daniel Logan's love and passion for having played Boba and being at the Star Wars conventions, it's great to see. Such a great, generous guy. So, like, with what goes on in the episode and with what Boba does, just little does everyone on the cruiser realize, like, what's going on, and the fact that one of those young clone cadets is Boba. I mean, besides Obi-Wan, surely the other characters, they must have been aware that Jango had a son, especially in the case of Mace Windu. Also, on the cruiser, on the Republic cruiser, Admiral Killian, being voiced by Julian Holloway. So I actually forgot that he voiced the Admiral, because at a certain point, and to speed things up some, because, actually, let's come back to you, Anchorman, because there are any other things you have to say about the episode Death Trap, and with what else happens?
I think Boba is able to destroy the entire ship in this.
He is, And especially because, it's near a planet and where it crashes, and when at one point, hostages would be taken in. Two clones and the Admiral himself. And because where Boba and a batch of clone cadets, they escape in an escape pod, but they would be intercepted by the Slave One, which, we would see Aura Singh. Once again seeing Aura Singh, and, Jamie King voicing Aura once again. And when the clone cadets realize that, Boba is a traitor, and they're not too thrilled about it. But, just overall, the Death Trap episode, the third to last episode of Season 2, was a good one. Where we are first introduced to young Boba, his debut in the Clone Wars. That was really good. Any last comments from you, Anchorman, on Death Trap?
I don't think so.
Okay, alright. Now we come to the second to last episode. Episode 21, R2 Come Home. This episode, pretty much centering on R2, because in this episode, when Anakin and Mace tried to rescue Admiral Killian, because he's been taken hostage, and on account from the crashed cruiser, they would walk into a trap set by Boba Fett and his bounty hunter associates. And then it is up to R2 to try and get a message out. Okay, once again, starting with you, Anchorman, because, what are the first things you have to say about R2 Come Home?
I like this one because it just shows how badass R2 is.
Oh, yes.
He's able to outsmart the bounty hunters. He's able to take out that beast that he encounters.
Yes,
but,
that's right.
I saw this as a kid, and I was wondering if Anakin and Mace were going to be okay because they get injured during the fight.
Well, obviously they were going to. We would know this, of course. Because, for what I have to say, with what goes on in the episode, because, It's unfortunate for Mace and Anakin because they fall into Boba's trap and they are stuck in the remainders of the crashed cruiser. And yeah, it's all up to R2 to save the day. And yeah, the part with the Beast, that was a good sequence there. And where Boba thinks that Mace Windu is escaping when it's actually R2. R2 takes Mace's Star Cruiser. Yeah. And escaping from the Slave One that's firing upon him, because yeah, he's of course driving the Jedi Star Cruiser himself. And you're not wrong, Anchorman, because R2 being a badass and because as we all know and what we love about R2D2, he is unlike any astromech droid in Star Wars, and Star Wars makes it very clear. Because yeah, just again, R2 just being unlike any droid, and from what each Anakin and his son Luke have said about R2, just, yeah, that's true. Very intelligent and smart, and R2 knowing his various ways and to make it back to Coruscant, which he does so. And yeah, because the other bounty hunters that are in this episode, well, Bosk is in there. Bosk, the reptilian lizard, yep, he's there, whom we first saw in Empire Strikes Back, and D. Bradley Baker voicing Bosk. And there's also Castus, yeah, one of the other bounty hunters, being voiced by Robert Atkin Downes. Now, what say you, Anchorman, with Castus, as well as Bosk making his debut in the Clone Wars?
I always liked Bosk. I like his design in this show. The art style for him really worked.
Yep, and anything to say on Castus?
I thought she was cool looking. I liked her spiked hair. Oh, no, not spiked hair, just
no, I'm not saying, no, not Aura's saying, I'm saying Castus.
Yeah.
He, not a she.
Oh, my bad. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I'm having a brain moment. I thought we were talking about someone else. My bad.
I understand, yeah. I mean, just like overall, Castus, we don't, I mean, even though we don't get that much of him with what happens to him in the last episode, still, he was okay. But just, yeah, the more we get of Aura Singh was good too. And just ultimately, yeah, still speed things up some, because R2 making his way back to Coruscant, informing Plo Koon and Ahsoka. They're there in the room, and yeah, the message that Anakin gave to R2, and when showing it to Ahsoka and Plo Koon, well, wouldn't take too long for them to make their way to the planet to rescue and retrieve Anakin and Mace. Yep, like raising the rubble from the crashed Republic ship. And yeah, Ahsoka and Plo Koon doing it. Yeah, that was great. Also, there was a moment between Mace and Skywalker where, yeah, because in the first episode of the final arc where Boba was carrying around his father's helmet, and hey, just like what happened when we last saw him in Attack of the Clones, he retrieved his father's helmet, and he had been carrying it with him since. Because, yeah, a moment where Mace and Anakin, because they stumble upon it, and yeah, Mace remembering Jango and when he killed him on Geonosis. Yeah, the specific talk that Mace and Skywalker have at that moment. Nice. Yeah, but just overall, R2 Come Home, that was a good episode, and where it, yeah, mostly centers on R2, where he really shines, and with what you said, Anchorman, is like, yeah. And I assume you have no other comments about R2 Come Home, just, all right, moving on. All right, so now we come to the third and final episode in the final arc, and being the last episode of Season 2. We've now made it to the last episode. Episode 22. Lethal Trackdown. In this one, Boba and Aura Singh, they are using the hostages to force Mace Windu to face them. And with Mace and Anakin still recovering, well, it would be up to Plo Koon and Ahsoka to track down the bounty hunters. Yep. Okay, now coming back to you, Anchorman. What are the first things you have to say about the final episode of Season 2, Lethal Trackdown?
I do like how we see Plo Koon and Ahsoka together, since they were originally... Plo Koon has founded Ahsoka.
Exactly. Okay, and as for me, because, like, yeah, I mean, with what goes down this episode, because, yeah, again, it's up to Plo Koon and Ahsoka to track down Aurra Sing and Boba Fett, and, like, say, yeah, like, the part where they would go to one section of the underworld to get some information, then it would get a bit out of hand, just like, yeah. Anything for you to say, Anchorman, on that part where they're in the underworld?
I like the cloaks they wear. It's suiting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But any other comment you have to say about that whole part where they're in the underworld?
I don't think so. I think I have like a trading card of the footage of the episode.
But also, like, yeah.
That card.
Yes, but also there's a moment where even the Jedi did see this via hologram where, yeah, because the whole thing of them about to kill one of the held hostages, and as I read in the description / the story of this episode, Boba's having difficulty trying to kill one of them, and that's amazing, because, there's a part of him that hates going in this path, and Aurra, like, is not happy about this when, yeah, Boba doesn't kill one of them, and she has to kill one of them, yeah. And even when Aurra tells him, next time you fire, you do it, and all that, just, yeah, being a bit, harsh on Boba. But, if Boba is to follow in the path of his father, he's really got to act it. And obviously he would, a little later when he would grow up. Then they would, the bounty hunters in Slave One, they would visit Hondo Ohnaka, because Hondo Ohnaka would help them out and such, to remain hidden. Even a moment where, because I guess apparently a thing going on briefly between Aurra and Hondo, because Aurra kissed Hondo, just like, yeah. And it turns out that Hondo Ohnaka knew Boba's father. Yeah, they were, even Hondo complimenting on Boba's late father that, he was a good man and all. I like that. That's pretty cool. The connections and all that. Yeah, and what else goes on in the episode? Like, yeah, Castus, like I said, we don't get that much of him, and it's up to here where, sadly, because he would sadly, get killed, for obvious reasons and on account of Aurra. And to still speed things up some, because, like, yeah, when it comes to the point where Ahsoka and Plo Koon, they would then track down where they're hiding, which being where Hondo resides. And long story short, because, yeah, when finding Boba and Aurra, because, Ahsoka has her lightsaber by Aura's neck, and because, there's a table talk between Plo Koon and Aurra, and Boba has a gun to Plo Koon's head, and, well, if either one of them kills them, then the other. But yeah, ultimately, Aurra, she manages to escape, and leaving poor Boba behind. So yeah, Plo Koon is, not letting young Boba go anywhere. So now we have a chase between Ahsoka and Aurra. And yeah, ultimately, because Bosk, he remained at the Slave One, keeping an eye on the hostages. But when Ahsoka showed up, yeah, she took care of Bosk, and now he's being taken under arrest. But as for Aurra, she would make her way to get on the Slave One, and Ahsoka trying to get to Aurra, but ultimately would damage part of the Slave One, and it would go off into a distance where it would crash. And, well, there's an explosion. Maybe possibly Aurra got killed. Not exactly, because, well, this would not be the last time we would see her until Season 3. Yep. And it's definitely by this point where Ahsoka, yeah, she's really coming ahead of being very strong with the Force. And the last sequence we would get, yeah, the last scene, I should say, where, yeah, Boba and Bosk are brought in, and Boba having a small talk with Mace Windu, because, yeah, where Boba's like, you started it, and, like, I'll never forgive you. And Mace, the way he responds to this, is, well, you're going to have to. Take him away. And the last shot is them being taken away. And yeah, the next time we would see both Bosk and Boba, because they would be in the Coruscant prison. Just, yeah. An interesting way to end off that episode. But let's come back to you, Anchorman, because with all I've talked about now, like, do you have any more comments to say about Lethal Trackdown?
The way they take down Boba was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Aura was willing to sacrifice Boba just to save her own skin.
Yep. Anything else you got to say?
They take Boba to prison, and then we later see him in the I think the Obi-Wan undercover arc.
Yes, that. Yeah, that is the next time we would see him. We would have to wait until 2 seasons later to see Boba and Bosk return, so, yeah. Anyways. But just, yeah, overall, the 22nd and last episode of Season 2 of The Clone Wars, Lethal Trackdown, and being the third and final installment in the arc of Boba Fett, young Boba Fett in The Clone Wars, that was brilliant. Yeah. Yeah, just like what the final arc had to offer, where we finally see young Boba make his debut in the Clone Wars, was really good. Well done. And any other last remaining comments, final thoughts you have to say on the final arc of Season 2, Anchorman?
It was definitely good send-off. It was fine.
I concur.
Yeah, I'm excited for Season 3, of course, to discuss.
Yep. But yep, and that's our second season. Now to round off with our final thoughts and such. Yeah, Season 2, it was another good, well-done season, and for it being the second season, with what Season 2, with what it all had to offer, with its arcs, its episodes, and some standalone episodes, like, from Geonosius, Mandalore, the Zillo Beast, Boba Fett, just, so great, and the Holocron episodes. Those two, those being the openers, the opening episodes of Season 2. Yeah, good episodes, great storytelling, and by this point, yeah, how further the characters have come, and the new additions, yeah, from Ahsoka, Cad Bane, Rex, yeah. Great action, great suspense. The animation, looking good for Season 2. The lightsaber duels, the various episodes with the main antagonists, just, need I go on. Season 2, not a bad season, and with what was said very early on, because, with the first 2 seasons, well, not being terrible, but definitely after the first 2 seasons, Clone Wars would really kick off further, especially by the 3rd season and all that. All right, we'll come to you, Anchorman. Your final thoughts and words on Season 2 altogether?
I think it's a solid, fun season. I think there's a lot of good arcs, for sure, and after this, the show would definitely get darker and more mature, for sure.
Oh, yes, and with what the 3rd season has to offer, but until we get there, yeah. All right, so with what both me and Anchorman had to say, our final thoughts and words on Season 2, and how we rate Season 2. How many stars? Well, we'll start with you, Anchorman. How many stars do you give Season 2?
I think I'd give it an 8.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And as for me, same goes for me. Both me and Anchorman, we give Season 2, 8 out of 10 stars. Yep, from both me and Anchorman, 8 out of 10 stars for Season 2 of Star Wars The Clone Wars. And what about you guys? What did you think of the second season of Star Wars The Clone Wars itself? What are your fondest memories of the second season? When watching it, when it was on the air, any favorite arcs, any favorite standalone episodes with these characters, and the more character-driven there is by the second season and further on. Episodes that, I don't know, because, that are your top favorites from Season 2, just, the ones that you enjoyed the most and all that, just, yeah. And with some of the things that came from Season 2 that maybe you weren't fond of, just, we'll be hearing from you. For sure. But again, overall, what did you think of Season 2 of Star Wars The Clone Wars itself, with what all me and Anchorman had to say, our review collab on it, and what did you think of our review of Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 2? Leave comments and give this review video a like as always. And so, guys, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. we hope you guys enjoyed our review of Season 2 of Star Wars The Clone Wars. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and we will see you guys in the next video / review. And Anchorman, once again, it was a great pleasure to have you, and yep, for us to continue on reviewing Star Wars The Clone Wars and until the 3rd season.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime, my bro. Anytime. Always a great pleasure. Yep. And yeah, any last words from you? You know, say goodbye and such.
Goodbye.
All right, he says that for me. Again, thank you very much for watching. Take care, and until me and Anchorman review Season 3, of course, peace out, and may the Force be with you.
Always.